Okay, as you might have guessed, tonight's class is on skeletons. Spooky, scary skeletons who send shivers down your spine and whatnot. We're going to be looking at bone anatomy and getting an overview of the skeleton. I'll be talking in particular about skeletal landmarks and also here's some of this. Here, let me go over this. This is an example like some of the anatomical landmarks I'll be pointing out. There's an excellent chart from Proco that I've got on screen on my Twitch right now that is also part of this image pack. I'll upload the PureF file for this a little bit later, but we're going to be using the images from here in time poses tonight. We'll be talking about extensively because, like, here's the thing about learning anatomy. You are not supposed to get good drawings out of learning anatomy. You are supposed to learn something when you learn anatomy. There are times, but believe it or not, when you are supposed to get good drawings. Not all the time, not always all the time in these classes that I teach. And I'm hoping that in the future we will do some classes that are concentrating on trying to make good drawings. But that will be we will build to that as a result of just like the hours of study we put in doing this stuff. But the point of studying anatomy is to learn and understand it so you can integrate it into your work. That means your anatomy studies are allowed to get messy, they're allowed to get stiff occasionally, they're allowed to kind of get really analytical. You're supposed to kind of like understand what you're supposed to like start to understand what you're looking at, basically, and start integrating it into what you do. So you're allowed to get pretty but anyway, here's one of the this is a Japanese edition apparently, but this is one of the things that we're going to be using tonight. This is the Andrew Loomis skeleton puppet, and this little guy right here is basically a simplified form of the skeleton plus these little kind of these little simplified versions of how the shoulders work. And this is a gestural puppet that is very similar to some other figure puppets we've been using, but this guy has some additional interesting features to him that make him uniquely anatomical and something that you could plausibly kind of like layer some muscles on top of later. And he's also very kind of heavily proportion based and stuff. You want to really pay attention to his proportions when you're making him. Even though he is a very gestural puppet and stuff, but he's kind of like what I'm doing right now. So what I'm going to have people do is I'm going to have a warm-up set where I'm going to talk my way through a lot of the stuff that's on screen. What I want people doing is just kind of following along as best you can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the Proco file, the PureF file that I have. Let's see here, there's my drawing class. I'm going to upload the PureF file. Let's see, it's in just a drawing anatomy. I think that's the skeletons and bones. There we go. So upload that. It's a whopping 61 megabytes. In order to read the file, you just download PureRef right here, this software, and then you can export the images and copy paste them into your drawing apps as you need, and so on. So I'm going to explain some of the images that are in here. I'm going to leave this on a 2-minute timer so you can practice from it as you see fit. I'm going to leave the Proco image on the upper right on the screen to remind us of what we're practicing. I might put a cleaner image of that on screen actually a little bit later, but I think I'll have things at this kind of size ratio for the class this evening, just so I have like a clear workspace, and so we have like a little reminder in the corner of what we're doing, at least as far as the Twitch goes. If you want to see bigger version of this, you can go to my Discord if you're on Twitch, and you can watch my class stream directly. I actually need to lower the stream quality, so let's see here, 30 FPS. I don't even need it 30 FPS, I can put it 15. So let's lower the bit rate so I get more bandwidth for Twitch. So what I'm going to have people do, the first assignment this evening will be to fill up a page of first assignment for this evening will be to fill up a page of gesture drawing Loomis skeletons for our first set. So let's see here. I'm going to bring on screen the Loomis skeletons so we have some reference to pull from. There's some of them right there. But we're going to do a warm-up set. I'm going to put on some actual like figure poses, but we're going to interpret those figure poses into Loomis skeletons. That'll be what we do for the warm-up set. So I want people to start thinking about the skeletons and stuff. Here, let me bring up the page that has the Loomis skeleton reference on it. That Japanese page. There it is, right there. So that's really handy. So I'm going to back out of this, open up figure reference. We'll do the athletes page. Some athletes and casuals and stuff. So let's grab like this, for example. So what I want you doing is I want you, for this warm-up set, okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're starting now.
So what I want you doing for this set, actually, I think I will put it on Cintiq only focus for Twitch. So what I want you doing for this set is I want you to basically like interpret the figure as a Loomis skeleton. The way the Loomis skeleton works is you start with a very kind of simple like head sphere, head like ovoid. Usually do like a little C curve for the neck or something. It's a simple line. The torso and rib cage, we're going to spend a little extra time on this particular pose, by the way, because it's a perfect straight-on pose. I may actually pause it there, even though the pause is going across her waist. But basically, like, if you look at the reference up in the upper right, like, we're going to be breaking down the figure into kind of like this sort of like, mainly like this rib cage form that has like these kind of simplified outgrowths on them that are kind of a mixture of the bone anatomy of the shoulders and also a little bit of the deltoid. The anchor point for them is about here-ish. Like kind of, if you look on the skeleton on the left here, you can kind of like visualize this sort of how like a Loomis skeleton thing would fit over that a little bit. And then down below, this is very important. We have this kind of double discus shape. I may actually deviate from this evening myself because I'm not a huge fan of it. But I want to show you how this works. So it's a couple of discs that are like, it's supposed to mimic like the kind of the dish nature of the pelvis, basically. If you see like the iliac crest there, kind of double disc sort of thing with like a sort of wedge between it. It's a very simplified version of how the pelvis works. The whole point of like this skeleton rig is it's supposed to be something you can draw quickly, and you can get down quickly. The other thing about this is the Loomis skeleton in rough proportions is like equidistant from the top of its head to the bit of the pelvis to the bottom of its feet. Generally speaking. It can vary slightly, and it's going to be like slightly off proportion just because if you're doing a quick sketch using this guy. But that's like the ballpark estimate that you want to aim for. The knees are about halfway up from here, like further breaking it down. I think the bottom of the pectorals are about like the halfway point here, I think. Yeah, I think so. So this is half. So the sternum goes down a little bit further than that. So taking a look at this guy, we can turn him in profile here. Looking at the reference there, you can see how, like, when you're looking at it from profile, you can see the legs kind of do this sort of like C curve, or like this kind of whole total S curve thing, but with like a knee joint there. But they use roughly about the same measurements. Like the bottom of the rib cage is, he didn't actually measure it out, but it's roughly about like a quarter down, I'd say, or so. But the purpose of this kind of quick sketch figure is skeletal figure is to kind of get you to wrap your head around loosely around how like the skeleton works, stuff. And we'll be like digging down more into how the skeleton works this evening and how the bones work a bit more. This will not be by any means comprehensive, but we're going to be dipping our toes in a lot of important areas of anatomy tonight. Should be pretty fun. So I'm moving up the arms to get it out of the way, but generally speaking, the proportions of the arm are going to be like down here to the bottom. Like the elbow joint is going to end at the bottom of the rib cage. Then the wrist is going to end at the pit of the crotch. The hand goes down a little bit further. About that. So this arm's a little bit long. That means that, like, if you take this length and turn it this way, just about from this anchor point, yeah, then you'll get something that's proportionate, even though it's at a different angle. A little bit, so that hand and wrist is a little bit up, like that, yeah. But yeah, once you have an understanding of this guy, then your next task is to start playing with it. Like, you want to make like using this guy second nature. Also, they don't have to be perfect. Like, you don't beat yourself up if you're not following Loomis's model perfectly. Just as long as you get them kind of feeling nice and feeling kind of right. Like, the point of a model like this, when you're doing kind of warm up with them, is to play with them. So we're going to be moving on to after this minute expires to doing what I had us initially doing, which was interpreting time poses into Loomis skeletons. We'll maybe do about 2 sets of that tonight, I want to say. But we'll also be covering anatomical landmarks and some other additional features of bone anatomy. And thank you, Macrophages, for the sub. Every little bit helps to support these classes for sure. So yeah, 20 seconds, and then we get our next pose. But you should be able to, when you start getting used to using this guy, you should be able to just like freely invent with it. Just have fun with it, basically. This guy can become a little useful piece of shorthand for you. I'm drawing him really small on purpose to like cut down on how much detail and how much screen real estate that I need to move my hand across. So here's a lady right here. I'm going to draw her really small, just to kind of get like the general idea of her down in like a thumbnail form. So let's see here. Maybe I shouldn't start with that fist. Start with something more like. So I'm going to think about what is she doing? She's a skeleton. Her skeleton is like punching another opponent down below. I'm going to try to think about that instead of literally draw what I'm looking at with her. But I'm going to try to interpret it through the Loomis skeleton. So don't worry if this is a little bit quick for you, because I think it's best to just dive right in and then just start trying to catch up as you're able to, and pick up what little bits you can, like as you go. So some things to keep in mind when posing out the skeleton. You want to be observant of balance in the figure. There's actually a page in some of the Loomis stuff about how to balance the figure and how balance varies depending on what the pose is doing. Also keep in mind that these guys will be obeying like line of action rules and gesture drawing rules that we've been practicing in previous classes too. As you kind of learn the model, it can be okay to kind of lose track of that occasionally as you're trying to sort of wrap your head around how to use this little puppet. But try to like steer it back in to being more line of action. And one strategy to do that is to kind of embed the line of action in the spine, which isn't usually how a line of action works, but it's a strategy to kind of get more dynamics in your pose as you're trying to understand this guy. So let's see, there's this lady right here. She's got arm up there. What can I do? How would I interpret this? It's going to be an upshot of her torso, so it's going to be really kind of extreme. We get a side plane of her pelvic Loomis hip. Keep the limbs very simple. And we don't need much more than that, because this is just like warm-up. This is warm-ups, and we're also just like kind of getting used to this new puppet here. I've drawn this puppet before, but I haven't drawn it before in a while, so it's okay to just start small. Kind of work up. Let's see here. Maybe I can touch on a few things that we're going to be covering tonight. So let's see. Check this out. So this is a simplified skeleton right here, out of my head. Just getting them down really quickly. I'm just doing a quick drill of my memory of the skeleton. Remember, these art practice sessions are practice for these class sessions are practice for me as well as for you. So it's a chance for me to drill my anatomy and revisit my anatomy. About here, feet about there, just the knees up there a bit more, maybe. Probably not getting the proportions too on, but eh. Let's see here. Let's fix the proportions here. So that, bottom of the feet should be there. That, knee should be about there. Wrists about here. Hands about there. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm just kind of trying to drill myself right now. Alright, so I've got 1 minute to do this guy now. I'm going to go and do him. Cool line of action on this dude, so I'm going to try to incorporate that in. So we got like the pelvis that's kind of showing the three-dimensional tilt of the hips a little bit. I can tilt the upper body a bit. Have his arm with the gesture line coming out. Then I can just like do simplified bony legs. Put his sternum in here. Sternum and collar. Something like that. Just throw a wall grid up there just for the heck of it. Alright, so this lady here, let's interpret her as a skeleton So let's see here. She's got a down tilt to her head. I'll include just like that, a little bit of the side plane. Not really too focused on her head right now. I just need something to block in. See the side plane of her torso. Torso is probably tilting down towards us a bit. So see like the top of it a little. Get that little shoulder structure in there. This one's raising up back there, so I'm going to just like kind of rough it in there. Get her arm up there. Maybe not that long. This. Her arm is doing some interesting kind of foreshortening extremity in this photo, so I'm just going to kind of loosely put that in a little bit. Her hips are very important. This, I would say. And also include like a little bit of like some ground plane stuff with these guys too. Like that's something that we've been covering in other classes. Trying to look for opportunities to telegraph about the ground plane. I think my other VP is kind of off, so I'm gonna erase that. Do this. This. Yeah, it feels a little bit more right to me. Torso ribcage should probably be shrunken and pushed out more, I'd say. More up there. These are just warm up, so it's okay if it's like kind of strange. All right, so let's get this guy in here. What program am I using in the bottom right corner? It's a program called Gesture Drawing 3. It's $15 on QBrush.com. You can load any series of images into it and do time poses with it. Time pose sessions with it. It's really, really handy. I use it for all my classes. I use it so much that I would not be against some sponsorship from them. That would be nice. But yeah. I might just put like an advertising. I might just put a thing at the bottom of the screen that, yeah, I'm definitely gonna put on my Twitch page, like, and maybe like a Stream Alerts bot notification in the future about PureRef and some of the other stuff that I use, PureRef and QBrush. So one of the things to pay attention to when you're drawing these Loomis rib cages is they are 3D objects based on the human anatomy of the rib cage, obviously. They include like a little bit of the sternum in them. They also include like some of the pectorals usually when Loomis does them. You don't really necessarily need them. But you can see like a big important thing about them is creating that kind of scoop underneath here of the vacant space underneath the rib cage where all your gutty works and your abdominals go and stuff. Like wrapping your head around that little three-dimensionality of how the skeleton works is a big thing to take away from doing these. I'm going to do this gal right here. I'll start with just like a whole gesture S-curve line for her whole figure. Just throw that in here. I want the poses reacting as a unit, so I have to vignette it a bit because I kind of drew into that. But I just want to keep moving forward without wasting time on this study, so let's maybe push him back a little bit more. But I want to at least get her, make sure I get her rib cage. And her pelvis is tilting. So that means the pelvic discs are going to be doing kind of like something like that. We're going to be seeing more of the top of her rib cage and her shoulders in this pose. Her torso is going back more, so maybe I want to adjust that a bit. See how that side of the torso is going down and this side is going up, so this part of the rib cage is higher than this part right here. Let's kind of rough in her arm. I'm not too worried about making a pretty drawing here. I'm just trying to understand how to use Loomis's skeleton better. Just warm up, after all. Hang on, I gotta chase the cat out. All right. So we're going to actually do some more analytical anatomy studies this evening too. Some of them may involve drawovers. Drawing over stuff is really an essential tool of understanding anatomy. So we're probably going to do some of that, where we draw over some bones, or we draw over photographs to find the bones in them. Also, I wasn't kidding when I said bring your bones to people here tonight who I was inviting to come on the stream. I want you to bring your bones because we're going to be doing some touching and feeling of our own body bones. Because you have an amazing skeletal reference tool right at your fingertips at any given time, and that is your entire fucking body. You can actually look at your body in the mirror, or just look at your body or feel your body to feel how your skeletal anatomy works. Okay, Google, stop. And a good example of that, everyone at home, since we are going to be taking, okay, Google, set a timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, starting now.
So a good example of that is I want everyone at home, okay, pay close attention and follow along with me on this. I want you to take your first finger and tap the top of your shoulder, that little pokey shoulder joint that's at the top of your shoulder. Like, tap it and feel that. Now I want you to raise your arm up and feel what happens to that bone and the surrounding area of muscle when you raise your arm up over the top of your head to that little shoulder joint. Like, that's a good anatomy. That's a good example right there. You can use your own body as anatomy reference. You can feel your collarbone and feel how your collarbone curves along your shoulder. If you ever have trouble with drawing a collarbone, you can reach up and feel your collarbone. And in fact, I would want to take your left or your right hand, place it on your opposite side collarbone. Your collarbone is this thing right here, also known as the clavicle. But place it on the opposite side of your of the hand that you've chosen to place on your collarbone, and raise your arm up, raise your arm down. Feel how your bone, feel how the bone feels, and feel how it kind of curves like a bicycle handlebar up into your shoulder. Here, let me get rid of this. But yeah, that's like an example. Like, if you're lost on understanding how the collarbones work, and collarbones are very difficult to understand, you can use your own body as reference, basically. Another example that's a little bit harder to pull off is you can feel your shoulder blades in the back. That one's harder to pull off because it's harder to reach them. But you can look at yourself in the mirror, especially if you have double mirrors, and you can raise your arms up and down and see what happens to your shoulder blades in different positions. I mean, your body is a good anatomical reference tool. If you're having trouble with a piece of anatomy, start taking a look at your body and examining what happens when you move in different positions and stuff. Pay attention to like the bones under the skin and so on. You can do the same thing with your face too, especially with a mirror or feeling your face. In any case, the next thing we're going to do, I think we're going to do some analytical stuff, but then we're going to move back into, so I want to talk a little bit more about the Loomis skeleton. Here's a more detailed diagram of him. You can do the Loomis skeleton really sketchy, or you can do them more kind of clean and detailed. Loomis has examples of both in his books. But Loomis skeleton is a fun little guy to draw. Like, he's pretty simple. This one's a little bit more complex because this one has like a little bit more of a neck anatomy thing going on here. But you can see like he's really trying to like show how like, especially how like the curves of the limbs sort of work. Stuff like, because like there's curve to the bone of the body. Like your limbs aren't really straight lines. There's like curvature to them, to the curvature and rhythm to the bones. You can see that here, even in this little kind of old illustration. Gottfried Bomis, however, he's like on the opposite end of things. When he has a lot of diagrams that show like a really ultra simplified version of skeletal anatomy that uses a lot of straight lines, but even then you can tell like there's like subtle curvature and stuff in here. I have several Gottfried Bomis images in here. Here's one of them. This is from Gottfried Bomis also. He's really great at breaking down the body into three-dimensional shapes, the anatomy forms into three-dimensional shapes. More about Gottfried Bomis here. I think this one is, yeah, this one's also Bomis right here. And let's see, this is, I believe, from the Anatomy for no, this is from Proco. But yeah, this one also shows off some stuff on the rib cage. There's Michael Hampton right there. This is more Gottfried Bomis right there. So I've given people like a mixture of a bunch of like anatomical reference stuff to study from or to like vibe with. I would recommend picking up the books by some of these authors that these images are from. Gottfried Bomis's Gestalt Dimension is a only in German print book. That's a little bit harder to come by. But you can find most of the other books pretty easily. Let's see, I think this one. Is Bomis also? That one might also be Bomis. That one's definitely Bomis. This is Bomis. It's really neat. These are fun. These ones are, you could definitely do like, you could do like, Loomis skeletal studies with, but you can see like on here, like this is essentially what Loomis was simplifying. Loomis was also simplifying like some of the deltoid anatomy, and the trapezius anatomy, but you can see like some of what's going on there with that shoulder joint. This is essentially what's being simplified right here. It's part of the shoulder blade. The shoulder blade connects the base socket, the upper arm, and it's also the collarbone, and the part of the collarbone that's fused to the shoulder blade. It's pretty funky. Like, let me see if I can find a good example here. We're not going to go too in depth with it because we're going to be sticking with simplicity for today, but maybe I can find a good example. Oh yeah, this anime image actually shows it off pretty well. Your collarbone, that's I think right there is like the separation point between the collarbone and the way the artist has drawn this, the collarbone and the shoulder blade. But the shoulder blade has this kind of like, okay, Google, stop. Has this kind of like curved bone that comes off of it that connects and fuses with your collarbone. And you can feel it on your back coming up to your shoulder. It's really just the shoulder is a ridiculously complex area that's constantly confounding to artists. Yeah, there's some really I included these because this is like an example of really gestural kind of Loomis skeletons that include little bits of the leg joints and stuff. Very simple. Here's a page from Loomis showing off rhythm, and you can be really dynamic with the Loomis skeleton. That's one of the reasons why I wanted people to start with the Loomis skeleton, because I want people to kind of realize that you will be getting very analytical with these figures and stuff, and analytical with understanding anatomy. But I want people to not lose sight of the fact that you're learning the analytical side of things, so you can play with them and make like dynamic figures and performance and stuff out of them. You will by necessity stiffen up when you are studying anatomy, because you are studying an analytical thing that you're trying to memorize. But as you start wrapping your head around them, you can start wrapping your head around how anatomy works. You can start playing with it, and it's okay to fudge and bend the rules and stuff as you are learning, and as you're playing with just making cool figures and stuff that have a sense of fun and energy to them. So that's just like a little quick sketch of the Loomis. So now I'm going to take a vote. Do people want to? Let me try. Let me try actually using the voting app thing in Twitch, maybe. Can I actually do that? I don't know. But okay, we'll do it in Discord then. So here's how it's gonna work. So we got rat and cat. Rat equals we do more Loomis skeletons. Cat equals we do analytical analysis of anatomy, by which I mean we dig more into skeletal and anatomical landmarks and stuff. We're going to get to both of them tonight, but I want to see what you people want to do for the next set. So, all right, so rat or cat. Rat equals Loomis skeleton set. Cat equals analytical bone anatomy study. So vote rat or cat. And we'll give that about 60 seconds. Okay, Google, set timer 60 seconds. Okay, Google, set timer 55 seconds.
55 seconds, and we're starting now.
Cat is pulling ahead of rat. Will rat win? This would be a good opportunity for me to put stream beats on, so I can have some jams in the background now. There we go. Oh, the people getting warmed up. A lot of people are very new to this little thing, so it's inherently going to be kind of a little whispery. Boom. Alright, there we go. Looks like we got cat. Looks like we're doing, somehow a penguin got in there. But, yeah. Okay, Google, stop. Alright, so we're not going to time this next bit. We're going to go over... Oh, well, we should time it so we know so we can keep track of the session. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, and we're starting now.
So I'll spend a good 20 minutes on some analytical stuff. So the first thing I'm going to direct people's attention to is there's a sheet in this pack that I gave you that is part of Croco's instructional stuff. Well, there's two pages in particular. There's one of Michael Hampton, which is from his book. Some other better images of that and the other one is the landmarks of the human body that Proko's got here. So I'm gonna maybe, let's see here, another 30 minutes. Let's put it on for 30 minutes. There we go. I'm gonna select the folder here. Hit the anatomy, skeletons and bones. But we'll do another set of the Loomis skeletons for sure. So yeah, I'm gonna put on maybe some good reference image somewhere in here that will also complement what I've got up top. So basically, like, oh, here we go. I'll leave it on the Michael Hampton here because this is from one of Michael Hampton's book pages right here, and where he talks about anatomical and landmarks of the skeleton. So Proko's also got the same idea here. The drawing over with blue, where they actually labeled like the different landmarks and stuff, is the stuff you want to pay attention to. But he's got a lot of them. Like, we don't need to memorize every single one of the multi-dots and stuff. We do at some point. Michael Hampton does a much simpler version of that. So I'm going to try to give you guys a little bit of an overview of the main ones that I think you should be trying to pay attention to this evening. So I'm going to do a quick skeleton right here, just like a super quick one, to just kind of lay out stuff that we're going to be needing to pay attention to. So here we go. I'll do something that's a little bit similar to Hampton there. So we got a skeleton. We got a basic skeleton stuff. So first things first. He didn't label it here, but one major landmark to pay attention to is the sternum. Is the top of the sternum right here, and the bottom of the sternum right there. In fact, the whole thing could be counted as like one singular landmark almost, but you can almost count it as two. I'm going to color code it because why not? Another landmark to pay attention to: the corners of the rib cage right here. As you can see, Hampton labeled here. Proko actually has that right there. So the purpose, by the way, of anatomical landmarks is to use them as a GPS locator system to know what you're looking at and where the limbs are going and stuff. So let's see. Now there's some other landmarks that Hampton didn't include in this image that he does in other parts in his book. So I'm going to kind of infer from them. Another one. These correlate to each other, by the way, depending on how the torso is twisted. These are the corners of the iliac crest. These are the corners of the pelvis right here that Proko's got right up in there. You can even consider them to be part of the same unit right there. So let's see what else. There's the collarbone right here. The collarbone is kind of a really bizarre bicycle handlebar shape that is really tough to wrap your head around how it works. A lot of times you'll see a lot of anime artists simplify it as a straight line and stuff. Sometimes they get away with especially in superhero shows, you'll see stuff like this, or they'll bend it like this or something like that. But I mean, the best way to think of the clavicle is as a kind of a bicycle handlebar. Just imagine another skeleton riding over the top, gripping onto the handlebars like that. Stick his foot out over here. Pro tip, try to avoid putting yourself into a situation where you have to draw lots of rib cages for any kind of project. For example, if you are a fantasy illustrator, maybe and you're drawing undead skeletal warriors, if you are going to include the rib cage, just maybe put something like this over the top of them, so you just have to draw a little bit of the rib cage, because fucking drawing every single fucking rib is a huge pain in the ass. You'll notice like some more cartoony illustrations like World of Warcraft's Undead and stuff. They either do that cheat or they drastically simplify like how many bones are in the rib cage. Like you'll see stuff like some really cartoony undead with they have like 3 or 4 big, they have like 3 or 4 ribs basically. These kind of big bulky things. It's usually for it works with good cartoony exaggeration, so then people accept this blatant obvious cheat to make it not a pain in the ass for the artist to have to constantly redraw them, or for the modelers to make them, for that matter. But in any case, let's get back to the anatomy points. So there's another anatomy point. I'm going to kind of color code it the same as that one up there, even though they're not really related, but you can kind of correlate them a little bit because they're part of like the same center line in a weird way, and it'll twist in different directions and stuff depending on how your torso is twisting. But the pit of the crotch, right there, that's another one. So getting into the limb anatomy, we have this spot right here where this joint actually right here where there's kind of a ball socket effect that happens here with, here's the shoulder blade. Let's do like this kind of simple triangle wedge shape for the shoulder blade here. This is very highly simplified. So what happens here is there's this kind of socket ball that connects with the shoulder blade. And here's like the rest of your arm bone, upper arm going back down there. There's also some other stuff going on with the collarbone and other things, and it gets really complicated. But this is the main thing. Like the scapula are the shoulder blades are another anatomical landmark. The way they work is, so we're looking at the back of the torso right now. So like the back of the rib cage, the ribs kind of actually curve out from the spine like this in the back. But the shoulder blade is kind of a curvy thing that wraps over the egg shape of the back. These weird turtle shell kind of things. And it's got like this, got this little protrusion that connects up and fuses with the collarbone, creating this kind of ring effect. This ring of bone. That's the bone zone, folks. This is the bone zone. Use whatever stupid ass anatomy, like memorization trick that you need to memorize certain and simplify certain ideas of anatomy. So I'm declaring it right now. This little circular area, this little kind of like circular the simplification of thinking of that area of the fused together complex parts of the shoulder bone, the shoulder bones and the shoulder blades and the collarbone. I'm going to call this area the bone zone from now on. That's the bone zone, folks. So anyway, I'm just covering this because this is an anatomical landmark that occurs in the back. I actually need to do another version of this guy so we can cover anatomical landmarks in the back. Quick. So do that. So in the back, we got, there's another couple points that are like the bottom of the rib cage and the version of the bottom of the rib cage in the back, I believe. Actually, no, I don't think it tracks quite there, but yeah, you can see like the bottom of the rib cage points right there that we normally see on the front. Remember, Michael Hampton kind of in that image sort of simplifies the rib cage as being kind of a box shape, and that definitely applies here. The box is going to be tilted like this towards us for this, and similarly, like the box of the hips are going to be tilted that way away from us. It's like the front of the iliac, like these are where the landmarks are going to be right here for the front. So here's a few of the landmarks from the rear. We got the scapula or the shoulder blades. These things here. Croco does a really good job of showing how like how they have that like protruding bit that comes out and wraps up over the front of the shoulder to create the bone zone. Remember, they wrap over the body and stuff, but these are essentially like landmarks. He simplifies landmarks as being like a line like that, and I think that's a good way to think of them for sure. Let's see here. There's this triangulation, but you can actually just use this, but there's this triangulation point right here that Croco uses that is kind of like where the it's where the hips fuse with the spine, basically, to create like the tailbone, basically. Like the spine is actually a lot more complex than this in totality, but you can think of the spine as being 3 main sections. And the 3 sections are from like the collarbone and the neck, collarbone neck up to the head. That's 1, 2, like everything in between, and 3. The point where it passes into the pelvis and becomes the tailbone, starts to become the tailbone, basically. 3 there. And the thing about the spine is like there's a range of motion by which you can kind of bend it and stuff, but it generally doesn't really like it generally doesn't like change shape too much when it's bending back and forth. Like if you bend forward with it, your spine is still going to be doing this. Just your body will be doing like your body will like round your shoulders and stuff. Your spine will flatten, not straighten out a little bit more. But the range of motion in your spine is actually not that much going from that angle. It's a little bit more. You can get some nice side-to-side action going on with your spine. Like you can tilt, if you notice, you tilt from side to side. Your spine actually has a really good kind of side-to-side tilt capability. But like if you feel your back, you can feel your back start to round a bit more. But it generally kind of, if you did an X-ray over your body when you're bending forward, you'd find the spine stays very kind of like its default pose. Let's maybe see if we can find a Gottfried Bommas. There's a Gottfried Bommas image in here somewhere that shows it off. Here we go. Actually, yeah, no, that bends out a little bit more than expected. So please, oh, here we go, yeah. So, let's see if we can find some good reference images in here of what I'm talking about. Here we go. So yeah, no, it actually does bend down, but down there, like in the lower back. The lower back bulges out. So the lower back bulges out, but the upper back mostly stays the same. Like if you remove the rib cage from there, you'd find that like the upper back like mostly stays like kind of like that. It's the lower back that is more kind of flexible, basically. From like backwards and forwards. So let's see here. What else? So the anatomical landmarks of the limbs. We're not going to go into too much detail in them, but generally, but just for the simplification tonight, just pay attention to like where the elbow joints are and where the wrist joints are, as far as the arms go, and the and of course the fusion point where the scapula fuses to the shoulder, or the not fuses to the shoulder, but where the ball and socket joint connects up. There's also these landmarks right here. If you look at Proco's right here, we are drawing like the outer edge of the leg bone, and what's happening there. Let me do a quick mock-up. So if you think of the pelvis as being this kind of like cylindrical dish shape, basically. Let's draw an X-ray view of that real quick. You can think of the points where the legs connect onto it in this way, and this is what the Loomis skeleton does, by the way. You notice when Loomis draws his skeleton, like he has this sort of thing, and then like the legs kind of playfully do this little curve, this little cursive curve thing. Basically, that's what's going on here. What Loomis is simplifying with that rhythm. So what Proko is drawing is basically like a little simplification of what's going on here, where the leg bone, where the outer edge of the leg bone is sticking out. And I believe this bone is actually, if you've got a well-developed Gluteus Maximus, you can kind of see that bone stick out, I believe. But in any case, the next landmark, we're going to really, really simplify things here. The knees, then the ankles. And I'm going to say that for the feet, you can keep them as simple wedges, but if you really want to like do something more than that with them, make the heel into like kind of a box form, like that. It shows the direction that the foot is facing in. And usually I attach like a hockey puck shape on the front, but you can just kind of like do like a triangle pyramid wedge coming forward for the foot, just to simplify that form. The point is to just get like a simplified version of how this works down. So some other anatomical landmarks. The let's see, yeah. So the Proko actually like, that first area of the spine right here, that's actually a signifier of an anatomical landmark called the seventh cervical vertebrae. I'm just gonna put seventh cerv right there. That's like the landmark that Proko is showing off on the worksheet here in the corner. And that's like the first section of the spine that fuses up with the base. I would say that the fusion point at the base of the spine is another kind of landmark to be wary of. But this is kind of an overview of things. You can look at the worksheet, just pull from it what you can. I want people to have this stuff kind of buzzing around their heads. I don't expect people to memorize this stuff in one go, but like I want people to look into Michael Hampton and to look into Proko and try to see how they signify anatomical landmarks, because they're both really, really good concise guides for them. There's other people that also do anatomical landmark guides, but like those two in particular would be really great to study from, and I do recommend them. And after this, after this set of, how much more time do we got? Okay, Google, how much time on timer? Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
1 minute and 2 seconds remaining.
Cool, we're gonna take a short break for about 5 minutes or so. And then, so cool off your brains, get some energy snacks or something, get some hydration, hit the bathroom. We're going to be going back into doing some Loomis skeletons using live action photo reference, and we'll be keeping in mind some of the anatomical landmarks. I'll be using it as an opportunity to kind of point out some of them. So it'll be a mix of kind of plotting in landmarks and actually I think we're going to be studying directly from skeletons and from the reference pack I have for the next set, but we focused on doing Loomis skeletons and plotting some landmarks. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
Done. 5 minutes added to your timer.
All right, so get ready, get prepped, get pumped. We're going to be entering the bone zone after the 5-minute break. Yeah, I want people to just start having fun with the skeleton stuff, and Loomis is a good way to do that. He's not too hard to hook yourself into if you've been doing the gesture drawing practice we've been doing in here. He's also pretty accessible for beginners. I would say combining the Loomis skeleton with like Glenn Vilppu's studies is really good. Glenn Vilppu's drawing manual and how he does gesture drawing. So in addition to like doing the Loomis skeleton as lines, you can also like make them kind of volumetric gestural bones, like what I'm doing right here. There's examples of this actually in Loomis's book. And you can find examples online of like people who've done Loomis skeleton studies that do them kind of like this. Sometimes they include more bits of muscle anatomy in them too. But we're not really touching on too much on muscle anatomy today. It's pretty much all about the bones for today. Although I may sneak some in, like I just now I put the obliques in and I kind of put like the center line for some abdominals in. You can see it's not going to be too hard to kind of infer anatomy, like muscle anatomy, onto a gestural skeleton. Like I'm just showing an example right now. I'm adding the muscle anatomy over the top of the bones in this leg just for fun. Oh yeah, pectoralis major is one of the muscle groups that Loomis uses in his skeleton puppet. So I'm not going to stab you. I'm not going to stab you or anything if you include a few muscle groups. No, it's valuable to learn bones. It's just like you can learn from observation. You can get the same information from observation and by other means too. But understanding how this stuff works, can like inform your decisions that you make. And a lot of the stuff that Ethan points people towards are basically just like tools of simplifying anatomy. But here, check this out. Like, this is a more developed version of the Loomis skeleton, where you create this kind of like Batman cowl sort of thing, where the shoulder rests inside, the shoulder joint rests inside, basically. Also, please stick around after class. There's something I wanted to share with you guys related to Valheim that I've been showing off some people. I'm using Valheim to research castle architecture and build a fantasy. I'm building a fantasy city or fantasy town and castle and stuff that I'm going to then use as a set to take photo reference of for a storyboard project I'm going to be working on next month when I'm taking a storyboarding class. Okay, Google, stop. Alright, so we're going to come back to doing, let's see here. How long would be a good amount of time? Let's maybe make it like, let's stick with 2. We'll see how that works for just like a bombardment of bones. We'll see how this works out, just copying skeleton bones and stuff. I'll put it on for 5 minutes, but then I might skip it. I'm putting it on for 5 minutes, and then I'll skip ahead. I'll let you guys know before we skip ahead to another pose, but I'm going to set the timer for... Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
Okay. Here's a neat page, but it's not... Yeah, this is someone who's doing, like, simplified skeletal anatomy studies and stuff. It's really nice. Let's see, I'm going to grab a page on here. Okay, we'll bring this page on here because this shows a little bit more of a developed version of the Loomis skeletons. So what I'm going to have people kind of wrap their heads around right now is start playing with the Loomis skeleton puppet. And start looking and pay attention to where anatomical landmarks might be. Like, you don't have to strictly copy what's on screen right now for this set. Although I may change it up to some photo poses in a bit. But we're going to be trying to get some drills in using the Loomis skeleton. I want people to start treating the Loomis skeleton as if they're drawing a character. The character is the Loomis skeleton, but you can invest personality into it. Like, you can maybe think of him as like, he's a superhero who's like the abstract skeleton man or something. And this is what he looks like normally. Just try to hook into something that feels fun for you to play with. Like, I want people to get used to just playing freely with these tools. So I'm doing kind of an invented figure right now that's sort of using Loomis skeleton puppet. It's a little bit kind of heroic proportion. So I was thinking about exactly what I was talking about when I made this. But let's take a look. Okay, so anatomical landmarks. 7th vertical vertebrae is up in here, behind there, over there. There's a, let me change color coding actually. So we got the sternum there, corners of the rib cage here. There's gonna be some more back of the rib cage back there, I believe. I'm not worried about the shoulder blades because they're behind the body right now, but there's the shoulder joints, the elbow joints, the wrist joints right there, pit of the crotch right there, corners of the iliac crest. These are correlated to the corners of the bottom of the rib cage. I'm going to throw down like a sort of a center line a little bit there. Collarbone right here. Collarbone, which is wrapping around back, creating the bone zone back over to the scapula in the back. Actually, I'm going to draw that because if you think of it that way, you can just kind of simplify it and draw it in like that. So we got kneecap right there, corners of the upper thigh right there, ankle, heel, ball of the foot. The skull's got some other landmarks in it too, but we're not too worried about that. I'm gonna use this sort of like triangle wedge shape that I've been using an awful lot. It's this thing right here. It shows facial direction very quickly. It kind of does like a little simplification of how the like the front of the brow, like how the front of like the cheekbones work and stuff. You can kind of carve into this a little bit to create space for the eyes and nose, and build off of it and adjust and so on. If you ever need to build up a face, basically. I want people to get used to just playing with this puppet. Play with your bones. Play them bones. Come on, play them bones. I'm gonna put on something for some encouragement here. There we go.
Can you play me? Can you just keep playing me, please?
You gotta just get back here and play these bones more. You were really playing these bones, and then you
Can you just come over? Can you just play again? I'm sorry. I feel like we have a miscommunication. Can you just play me again?
Play these bones. Play these bones. You gotta play these bones, folks. Whoops. Let's see here. I have a feeling that's going to get annoying very quickly.
Oh, that's one of my bones you just played. Hoo-yah!
You take one of those little bones away and put it in your mouth. You put a little bone.
Yeah, I gotta adjust something.
Whoa! Stop the bones! Why'd you stop playing the bones? I mean, ooh, that's one.
Okay, get rid of that. Yeah, it's going to get annoying really fast, so let's keep it on this. But that's from Accounting Simulator or whatever, the Justin Roiland VR game, or whatever it's called. I think that's what it's called. That's one of the many kind of non sequitur moments of the game. This is a xylophone skeleton that desperately wants you, a two-headed xylophone skeleton that desperately wants you to play their bones. So what we got on screen right here is, you don't necessarily have to like perfectly memorize what's going on here, but this is like, the general idea of this is an abstract simplification of like the shapes of the rib cage. And this uses some of the forms of what I was talking about, of like thinking of the pelvis as being like a cylindrical dish. Yeah, like using your anatomical landmarks and stuff, you can kind of carve into it some. And then you can start to kind of infer different parts of it. For example, I'm going to use that to kind of infer the corners of the rib cage, somewhere around here-ish. Be seeing some of the underside of the rib cage a bit. So there's a good video from Proco called How to Study Anatomy, and he goes over, like, I watched it before this, but he goes over a lot of stuff about like how you want to approach like thinking about how you study anatomy. The goal of studying anatomy is not to get pretty drawings, it's to internalize the information. And you can do that by any way you any kind of strategy you can employ to do it. You're studying it kind of the same way that you would study for like a test exam almost. It can get pretty clinical, so you need to like come up with memory tricks to memorize different stuff, figure out what's important, what's the important information to really zero in on. Stuff like the anatomical landmarks are really handy as memorization tools. The bony landmarks specifically, there's the bony landmarks of the body. The reason why those are so important is because they are like hard forms that generally don't really, they can change position, but they generally don't change very much. Like on the body. Because they're kind of a hard form versus like a really soft, pliable form like a muscle. There are some like weird exceptions, like for example, if you're inhaling or exhaling the ribcage is going to the ribcage bones are going to kind of expand with your lungs, for example. But generally, like the landmarks are going to be about in the same spot for the most part. And like there's other stuff like the collarbone is pretty flexible, but it is a hard thing that has a range of motion hinged to your hinged to the top of your sternum, basically. So yeah, in addition to the Loomis skeleton, another thing to practice would be what's on screen now a little bit, which is those kind of simplified, like kind of torso sort of things like this. Then you can add bits and pieces of the Loomis skeleton into them, like that cape thing wrapping over the back there. And you can add in the side things there. There's a nice skeleton. This was from a proportional demo I think I saw a YouTube video of. But you can see there's I mean, this is a pretty simple, straightforward image. You can see he was plotting out the landmarks of like the hips and other landmarks of the body when he was making this, and there's little bits of use of that on there. Like he uses like simplified guide forms of like this. What I'm drawing right now is actually one way to animate human figures, by the way. Like Maxi, who's well, he's this dude right here. Maxi, who's an animator who works in who's worked in the anime industry and stuff. He got his start doing a lot of like stick figure fighting video stuff with little guys like that. But and he got really quite good at it. But the way that you graduate from this to that to like more figurative characters, so you add like this, pretty much. And now you have something that's a little bit closer to how a real figure behaves. And in fact, like this little kind of model here that I'm doing on screen is one of the many kind of simplified versions of the human figure that you'll see animators use. And we've drawn several of them on here before. One of them is is kind of an adaptive version of the Loomis skeleton. Another version is, instead of that like kind of stick bendy body, there's like a mass form, and this is more like the classic Disney style one. Let's add that in there. A bendy kind of flower sack mass for the torso. Other ones involve like making more volume out of the arms. There's also an anatomical one that looks more like kind of like where you build forms in chunks, like chicken chunks out of the figure and stuff, and hook them together. I'm gonna do it really badly if I try doing it. You'll see a lot of superhero shows that or action shows that you'll see animators kind of do that approach. But the skeletal puppet of Andrew Loomis there's a version of him that gets used in animation simplification too. You don't really see as much the kind of double disc pelvis thing because that's kind of a pain to draw, but you will see like kind of somewhat similar sort of forms for handling the shoulders usually, and the rib cage, and just the general kind of like the volumetric way he's handling the arms on this image here. You'll sometimes see that Although they won't necessarily draw like out like the kneecap joints or something. Also, if you ever need an animated skeleton, the Loomis skeleton will get you in the ballpark. I smell some rotisserie chicken being cooked downstairs. Actually, we don't have a rotisserie, so it's just oven cooked chicken. I'm gonna get some and some veggies after class for sure. Alright, so just doing a quick inventory of anatomy real quick. Yeah, the point of doing this stuff is to get it into your bloodstream so it becomes a tool that you just start using freely, and that you are able to notice anatomical gaffes and errors a little better. But you shouldn't be afraid to mess up, and you shouldn't be afraid to kind of just like play with this stuff and play with it loosely. There's times when you can be like more analytical. Gottfried Bomis is a great tool to go for if you are trying to be more analytical, and these are some Gottfried Bomis's images right here on screen. You can kind of imagine like those figures as being animated cutouts. Like it might actually be a fun exercise to like take these and then try using them as like keyframes for like an animated cutout puppet. Something, do like a Toon Boom Harmony exercise using them or something. It's pretty great. There's a lot of pages like this in Gestalt Dimension that show off like range of motion and different actions and stuff. Kind of guessing, like I'm kind of guessing right now, like what would happen to the scapula if the arm was forward versus this one that's kind of more relaxed. It's not gonna be perfect. It's just me playing with the idea of anatomy. Maybe this would be pushed forward more. Getting more into anatomy in the coming weeks seems like something that'd be fun because we've done so much gesture. I'm pretty confident about our ability to kind of invest the not lose the vitality of stuff, so I think we can get more analytical and then play with it. I think we have enough of the right spirit of how to approach this stuff established that we can start getting more analytical with anatomy and like construction. I do want to get back to much more gesture focused stuff, and we'll probably sprinkle that in what we're doing, but I definitely want to get more solidity in our figure construction in these coming sessions, and that also includes anatomy knowledge. I'm going to change it to another image now. Let's find a good one here. Oh, lovely. This one shows off the collarbone right here and the scapula. This is from Proco. So I'm going to do like a quick study of this. Just going to make it quick and loose. Not worried about it being perfect to what he drew. I just want to kind of understand what he's talking about here. Like, get a little quick thing down of the 3D shape of the force of the rib cage there, so I can understand the information that he's trying to convey here. So first off, what we got an anatomical landmark right there of scapula. He made that really big, by the way. It's really exaggerated, of the sternum there. He did include that little kind of like dealy bob thing that comes down part of the very bottom of the sternum right there, extending down under the rib cage. So we got this little tiny thing here. You can tell I was drawing. I made the cardinal sin. I'm drawing from my wrist and my fingers instead of my arm for that, and that's why it's got all scribbly. So then we got these like kind of bicycle handle shapes here. So instead of like drawing them out 3-dimensionally, I'm going to kind of gesture them in first in sort of a 2D shape, but thinking about it 3-dimensionally, so I can kind of plot out about where it's going a little bit. Now I can work in my 3D shapes. So I noticed that like he's kind of capped off the ends of the bicycle handlebar shape of the clavicle right there. And then he's connected it up with the part of the scapula that's looping around and creating the bones. Okay, Google, stop. It's looping around over the back. That back over there, like that. And that's the point of what he's showing off here. He's showing off how the clavicle, well, first how the clavicle functions 3-dimensionally, but how it connects, a simplified form of how it connects up with the scapula. So this is not going to be perfect, but I want to understand what he's talking about. So I'm going to do like a quick. I'm doing this very scribbly and bad, but I want to understand what he's talking about. So I'm just following along, looking at what he's doing, making like shorthand notes out of what he's doing. So we got this, and then his back. I'm gonna maybe do the back also. So I'll throw down quick back shape right here. We got the butt. We got the back of the rib cage right there. I would say that those corners right there would be probably where the anatomical landmark of the base of the back would be in some systems of anatomical landmarking. So he kind of ghosted through the figure and did like a ghost version of the clavicle in X-ray view there. And then he did the scapula. He correlated the scapula. I think that's the neck opening right there. But he did correlate the scapula to each other because they are kind of like they're floating off of but wrapped over the back is how they work. So get that. You got to correlate the scapula to each other. They're going to change position depending on what the position of the arm is. I'm not going to draw as complicated of a shape that he drew, but draw this kind of like triangle wedge shape, a little cat point there. Flat on the bottom here, flat on this side, right here. I'm making these decisions to simplify it. Right here is where that ball socket joint would hook up. But the other important thing he does is he has this kind of this like wedge, this sort of wedgy sort of things coming off here, or the scapula coming up, curving around into the collarbone and creating that bone zone area that I was talking about. My eyes are mostly on what he's doing here, so my drawings are kind of poopy at the moment. That's gonna happen sometimes when you're doing studies like these. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around the information, get it into my bloodstream so I know what I'm doing. Let's see here. So I'm gonna do a quick simplified version of this again, real quick. This is all about like memorization and trying to like iterate on the information a little bit. Something like this. Loops around like that. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thought process I go through when I'm trying to study anatomy, basically. So we're on a little break right now. Okay, Google, set timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, starting now.
So I give 7 minutes, and I want to encourage people who are in voice chat or in the text chat of Twitch or Discord, to speak up. I also want to encourage people to share their drawings and the studies that they've been doing in chat. I'm going to be recommending some art books for people to refer to, and some art YouTubes and other things too, for people to do more stuff. I think we want to continue what we're doing today tomorrow, possibly. With going with more anatomy stuff. We might go on to like the next iterative step of this, or we might dig further into bones and bone landmarks tomorrow. I'll see what that is. One book in particular that I actually want to take a big deep dive into, which I have a copy of, Anatomy for Sculptors. Here's the website for it. They also have Anatomy of Facial Expression, that's also fantastic, that I also have a copy of. This is Aldous Zarnis and Sandris Kondrats. So it's for sculptors, but it's really just for any artist. I do strongly recommend both of these books, and I want to. There's a tremendous amount of excellent information in them, and I want to encourage people to pick up copies of this, and we will be using it pretty extensively tomorrow, when we're going to be doing some off-site study session stuff, or some off Twitch study session stuff in the Discord. So that should be pretty lit. There's also some other things I found videos of before class that seem really cool, like Art WOD right here. This YouTuber, whoops, this YouTuber. They had this YouTube is on artist mannequins. Look, there he is doing Loomis mannequins. He's kind of fudging the hips a lot, but this guy's he's showing up. This is the ovoid mannequin. This is also another one called the ovoid mannequin. This is the Michael Hampton anatomy mannequin. Michael Hampton is this guy right here. That's some of his stuff. So he's showing off like different stuff, and then he's showing off how he kind of utilizes some of it and puts it together. And he's kind of freely sketching it, so they don't have to be perfect when he's kind of like going through and sketching this stuff. Like, you can always fix it later. Like, this shows off that he has a much better understanding of anatomy when he sits down. This one looks like a Bridgman study to me, actually.
We'll make another for you.
This one almost looks like George Bridgman. Those hands look very George Bridgman to me.
This mannequin.
Yeah. Let's see here. This is another thing I found. This is much more analytical.
Yeah, to the light.
But this guy does. Dan Beardshaw has some interesting stuff about like how to, for example, break down how the pelvis, ribcage, and the pelvis work three-dimensionally. Drawing Art Academy Masterclass. This is the one where the he uses that simplified figure right here. This one's really handy. It's pretty cool. You can actually get the whole video if you're going through the pay site and stuff. That's a really cool little kind of clip showing off some stuff. Let's see, Proco Bones. Let's try that. Grow Bones! Somebody made a playlist called Proco Bones. How about that?
Before we...
The landmarks of the human body. There we go. This is one of the videos I was talking about.
I can use corners
right here.
of the...
Let me see if I can save that playlist. Save playlist. Okay, there we go.
Sure.
Yeah. So Proco Bones. Let me see. I'll copy this. Actually, is there a share link for that? I think I got it, but I'll copy paste that to chat. With Proco Bones. Proco's stuff I actually want to dig way more into too. So anatomy for artists and Proco, two of the big things we dig into tomorrow. Also, for those who weren't around yesterday, we did a bunch of Steve Houston stuff before we started getting into some Castle stuff. Some Castle stuff, and I'll talk more about that later. But yeah. This is really good. He's got it nicely, he got all this stuff nicely organized. Nicely organized for you and broken down for people stuff. And of course, there's that chart that I already showed people. Showed people in the chat for the bony landmarks. And he's got all this is like a whole video series on like the different areas of bone, including going all the way down to the feet. Let's see. There's gotta be some other stuff here. And bones. There's a lot of other videos that I think are not in this playlist where they talk more in detail about bone stuff too. But yeah. Bones. Let me try let's try modern day James. Let's see what he's got. But he's got bony anatomy of the head. He's got deciphering Bridgman, which also goes a little bit into bone stuff. Fixing my trash. His parody of Ethan's video. Yeah, deciphering Bridgman. We looked at that before, and at some point I definitely want to like get rid of that. But this anatomical shape language video, I have not watched this, but this looks very promising here. Like breaking down how anatomy works into a shape language, so you can exaggerate it and distort it. That seems something very fun to get into for sure. Yeah, I definitely want to hold on to modern day James for inspiration. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
27 seconds left.
Okay, Google, add 1 minute to timer. I'm gonna go check something. Okay, Google, add...
Done. What? According to Mayo Clinic, a chronic condition including attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness.
Back. Yes, I heard Google dissing me. Okay, Google. Okay, Google, stop. Oop. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, Google, what is hemorrhoids?
According to Mayo Clinic, swollen and inflamed veins in the rectum and anus that cause discomfort and bleeding.
Let's learn one more anatomical fact. Okay, Google, what is Gluteus Maximus?
Here's a summary from the website healthline.com. The gluteus maximus muscle is located in the buttocks and is regarded as one of the strongest muscles in the human body.
You know,
the gluteus maximus muscle is responsible for movement of the hip and thigh. To find out more, look for the link in your Google Home or Google Assistant app.
Okay, shut up, Google. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
So we're going to go back to, let's see, we're going to go back to figures. Oops, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, we'll try this. How's that? Let's put it on 2-minute figures and we'll just try to riff on whatever is in here. There's going to be a lot in here. It's going to be a random grab bag of shit. But we're going to try to do Loomis skeletons and landmarks and try to infer little bits of the info that we've kind of wrestled our little noggins with this evening. We'll just do that for the rest of the session. We've got another hour and 15 minutes left for us to kind of vibe with this. I'm hoping the people that are here today will be able to be here Friday, because that means now that I've introduced people to how the Loomis skeleton works, how these anatomical landmarks work, we will be able to do a more kind of driven study session where we get pretty relentless with this stuff. I'm going to be doing a mixture of copying what I'm seeing here of the figures down below and riffing and trying to invent right now. So I'm just trying to have fun with this stuff. Like, I want to use these as very playful tools, because the way I'm going to be drawing when I'm doing my storyboards is I want them to be invested with a lot of gestural energy in them. I want them to have integrity to them, and I want to have thought behind them, but I want them to have fun to them. So on that note, I believe I might actually see how much I can riff into playing with some of my characters as part of this anatomical study. So one of the characters of the story that I'm doing is a really pissy goblin named Goblin assassin named Stab, who's got kind of like tree frog like abilities. So he's able to like scale castle walls to get in to assassinate people and stuff. So the video of the story that I have in mind with him involves him sneaking into a castle and assassinating the keep lord, but then like through some kind of a mistake winds up alerting the guards. The guards come after him, and then he has to fight and cleverly deceive his way out. So I've got a bunch, and I wanted to make it like a very silly, fun thing, but I want to kind of set it up with like, I want to have like some kind of a sense of integrity behind it. Like I want it like to feel like it's happening in a fantasy world that has a little bit more presence to it and thought behind it. So I'm kind of exploring that a little bit, even if I just go like completely over the top with it. So we got Bruce Lee right here. Let's maybe spend a little extra time with Bruce. Actually hadn't. So like, let's take a look right here. So we got this anatomical. Let's spend an extra time with Bruce Lee to get some anatomical landmarks in. So we got the pit of the neck right here with the sternum. We got the ends of the clavicle right here, going over to the sides here for Bruce Lee's shoulders. Then we got the top of the shoulders. That's another anatomical landmark point right there. We got this curve to his body for his line of action. So we can kind of place the tilt of the hips there, the top of the rib cage. Just kind of doing this because it's an angle towards us. But we do see the top of the rib cage a bit, the top of the shoulders. Sternum here, bottom of the rib cage there, little X-ray view of the backside of the rib cage. We can get a little bit of like the Loomis skeleton hips in there, and curve them around and fuse them with the line of action that I'm sort of retro adapting into the spine now. His arms are a little bit far out there. Shoulder landmarks are a little bit far out, but his arm joint is going to be about here. His scapula is going to be wrapping over there in an X-ray view right there. I think his arm is raised a bit, so the clavicle, it's going to be coming up from the clavicle a bit more. So maybe adjust things a little bit. So we get the little hip bone there. For the, oh, we're not done with Bruce. Sorry about that. Bottom of the rib cage there, top of the iliac crest there. This side is squishing, this side is stretching of his body. Not too worried about his hands or his arms, but I'm gonna kind of block in something there. I think the top of his shoulder is kind of curving back in there a bit. Let's get his wrist in there. Elbow joint. Head of the crotch. His legs going up right here, and knees about there. Let's do like a quick kind of rough end for the hand. Also, inevitably, if we are going to be studying anatomy, we are going to be definitely covering hands pretty extensively at some point in the next couple weeks. Oh, that's not Jackie Chan, you dork. This guy beat up Jackie Chan in Enter the Dragon, though. Jackie Chan was one of Bruce Lee's stuntmen for a while. Pretty sure it is. He's wearing the Enter the Dragon makeup in the scene where he gets his face clawed by the bad guy. Yeah, that famous scene where he tastes the blood from his mouth, coming from his cheek, and spits it out or whatever. And then he gets mad and punches the guy through a mirror. This lady be vibing. This lady's doing what I do when I'm like relaxing with synthwave, have my headphones on my bed. Like, what's that subgenre of synthwave that's like kind of more, it's not chillwave, but there's like a fairly more recent subgenre of synthwave that's kind of more atmospheric. No, it's not vaporwave. That's older. I have to look it up, but it's kind of like Galaxy Brain, the music genre, basically. It's not lo-fi. I have to look it up. But it's the one that I've been listening to lately, and I've forgotten what it's called. So cool. What you can do for these studies, I'm kind of developing this approach as I'm going, is you can start with a gesture. You can use the Loomis skeleton as your gesture drawing and just do it really rough and loose. Then you can go back in and look for anatomical landmarks to mark out. Like I'm gonna top of the iliac crest right there, corner of the rib cage right there. Let's correlate that a little bit and go back in, and I can do more of that stuff. And I'm gonna do that while this drawing is on screen. Scapula back there, those were pressed together, if I recall, in the small of the back. There's funky stuff happening with the muscles and bones there too, which is something we'll get into when we get more into muscles and bones. when we get to into the muscles wrap over bones and stuff. But oh my god, muscle anatomy is going to be so interesting to get into for sure, because there's just so many ways that the muscles wrap over and under things in ways you don't expect. Let's see here. I'm going to do a quick inventory of my landmarks. I'm kind of using a mixture of them. I gave people a kind of a shotgun overview of several of them. But you don't have to use them all at once. The main ones you definitely want to pay attention to: corners of the rib cage, top of the pelvis, and then from there, like the sternum, the top of the sternum, top and bottom of the sternum, clavicle, and the top of the shoulders. I would say is another important one to pay attention to. Pit of the crotch. But you can see how they're starting to look like a connect the dots exercise in a weird way. That's what the point of the anatomical landmarks are. They're a GPS system to help you like geolocate what you're looking at in the figure. Like you can do something like here. Let's try this right here. Look at that. You think you can tell what this figure is doing based on these dots? Look at that. Like that. Making that space a little bit wide. It should be remembered like this. This is a kind of a bad pose for doing this, so I'm going to change it to something else. Let's try... Oh, now we're getting thirsty. But thirst or not, this guy's a good pose to... This himbo has generously given up his body to us to map for anatomical landmarks. I'm going to work the himbo mines right now, mining for anatomical landmarks in his muscle mass. Don't tell my family. I may not return the himbo mines. I'm going to sink deep within the oh, okay, fine. So because there's foreshortening going on here, I'm just kind of playing with it a little bit. Let's see here. Let's get like... Not too worried about the legs for this. Mainly wanted to concentrate on the torso for him. But, let's see here. He's got an upshot, so his ear's down there. But we got the anatomical landmarks of the rib cage. You can see the upside of his rib cage a little bit, so I'm kind of using like a box form there. Box form for the hips. Pit of the crotch. If we could see them, the corners of those legs would be down in there. Kind of infer some Loomis skeleton things, which feels wrong somehow, so I'm gonna add some, at least some like volume to his legs. But yeah. That's a bad pose. Let's try. That's a pretty good one. We can't see his anatomical body. Kind of need shirtless nudes for this, but we can kind of build and reconstruct a figure based on what we know about anatomical landmarks. and the Loomis skeleton puppet. I'm gonna try using my goblin character in a little bit and see if I can play with him some, but I'm not too worried about doing too much with that because I kind of want to glean what information I can. So it looks like his top of his torso is turned a little bit more towards us, but I think we can see. Well, it's kind of a judgment call, but I think that we can see more of his buttocks than his crotch. So I'm gonna make a judgment call on that, and because it's better for counterposing. Say that his torso is twisting that way, so that his hips are twisted that way. So that means if we do like a Loomis skeleton, that means we see the other of the two hip pieces right there. Means we're going to see a little bit of this coming down off the hip right there, little hip joint right there. Going to draw the whole leg in because I kind of run into another drawing there. That's connecting up over there. Then we get that kind of Batman cape sort of thing going on here, scooping up over the arm. Going under the pectoralis right there, creating that Loomis, the Loomis rib cage right here. And we'll go back. We'll stick with this guy just to finish him off real quick. Put his arm about here. Yeah, maybe a little closer. That ish, I'll say. There we go, a little bit more of a shoulder in there. I think I can push the leg a little bit. Here. Someone says, I have a few terabytes of shirtless nudes, bro. Oh, do you? Well, art nudes, I hope. We do have an 18 or over section in my Discord right now. I am going to be upgrading my Discord bot this week, by the way, so I can finally have an opt-in command for people on the Discord to use for opting into the 18 and over section, so they can have access to and share art nudes to study from. And we'll probably do some art nudes study Discord stuff. Think when we do that, it will basically be we'll be basically doing kind of what we do here, except we'll be using nudes, because we obviously can't do those on Twitch, which is a pain in the ass. So this is a alarming pose, at least as far. I mean, it's an awesome pose, but alarming in terms of like how crazy the figure is getting here. So really arching the back there. I'm gonna try to get like a gesture drawing overview of the overall pose real quick. And here, like a really loose, rough version of the Loomis skeleton almost. Draw really, really lightly. Using my arm to draw this in and just take it and feel it. Vibe with it. I think I could push her belly up more. Like there's more of an upward thrust to her stomach and back, pushing that ball up. So now that we have that, I'm going to go in and try to solidify things a little bit more into anatomy. So we get we see a little bit more of her other buttocks right there, coming down a little bit. I think there's more of a tilt and a push here, so I can probably... Okay, Google, stop. Some corners of her hips there. They're correlated. You can definitely see like like her hips are doing like this really wild thing here. There's compression happening between her back and that. I'm just going to keep that as a simple egg shape. This is just a figure sketch, quick sketch. But I'm going to try to utilize the Loomis skeleton a little bit more to kind of plot in some more landmarks. This is such a challenging pose, though. Like, I feel like the ribcage is more doing. So we get that right there. The corner of the ribcage is right here, I think. And then her hips are, let's see here. The corner of her hips is somewhere in there, I think. So it's like here. Such a tricky pose. I'd really need to like analyze something like this. The range of movement on people in like contortionist bodies is fucking crazy. I think that's the same person, just in a different costume. Yeah, we'll leave it on this dude. So, okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
So I do want to share something in Valheim at the very end before I get off. I want to share the town that I've been messing with in creative mode that I'm using to apply stuff I've been learning in medieval architecture. So stick around. I'm not going to be ending the Twitch stream immediately. I'm going to be going over that, and hopefully I can get some feedback from people here on ideas for medieval village type stuff, because I'm trying to build like a facsimile of a town that feels like that might have like a history or a story behind it. I'm using it as an opportunity to kind of exercise some like basic ideas of like town building, thinking about town building and a history to a town in fantasy world building. While I'm also trying to kind of learn a little bit more about why things were built how they were in medieval structures and castles, from what I'm learning about historical castle and medieval architecture documentaries I've been watching. I learned quite a bit. I'll be sharing some of the documentaries I found. I'm going to be doing a deeper dive than that, though, because I really want to learn this stuff a lot more in depth. So that means I'm going to have to do some book learning, too. But the stuff that I did find was pretty fantastic, including a documentary that I mentioned earlier on a 25-year project that in France, of archaeologists making like basically making a actual castle with the same techniques that that like medieval castle folks would have used in the time, and it's really amazing. It's kind of slightly mind-blowing to think of like there's somewhere certain parts in the world, and including that, there's still people like practicing like medieval stone masonry and medieval carpentry and stuff. And what's also amazing and impressive is like medieval technology was way more advanced than people think of it as. Like, we get kind of a lot of stuff filtered through the vanity of the Renaissance era and stuff, and we get like a lot of false stereotypes about the Dark Ages and so on. But in reality, like, people were a lot more knowledgeable and were into science a lot more than people realize from that time. And that's also very reflective of like the high degree of innovation in the technology of the time. A lot of it went quite beyond what the Romans built. But there was reasons for why they built things the way they were. Because like they couldn't have central cities the way that Rome did, because everything was kind of disparate city-states and stuff. Basically, check this out. This is a much more kind of like loose gestural skeleton-y figure that's still kind of based on the Loomis skeleton, but this is more like a skeleton. This is something that you can definitely ease into doing. Oh, and while we're at it, here's a quick skull demo. Let's do like a freehand skull study. Test my skull knowledge. Okay, let's see here. Got that kind of raccoon eye sort of thing for that. Get the nasal bone. Let's do like a quick drill of my memorization of the forms of the skull. So that fuses to the tooth cylinder, teeth back in there. There's the jawbone. There's a directional turn of the zygomatic arch. Put the brow in there. Kind of football shape to the skull. Go ahead. Okay, Google. Stop. There we go. As you can see, it's kind of like working with the like picking out cloud shapes to this is something that's built out of my knowledge and my visual memory of how a skull works. And I of course get better results if I used an actual skull for reference, but this is like functional enough that like if I'm trying to throw out an idea of something and I just need to like throw down a skull really quickly, I can do that. I can also add here the nose, start building in the eyes, stuff, the lips, everything else. But anyway, so yeah, skull anatomy. We'll be getting more into skull anatomy again too. We touched on it last Monday, but today it's all about the skeleton. Why does the back of the skull always look so elongated? Is it because of the hair? Not sure what you mean by that. Back of the skull? It's probably because of my crappy drawing. The proportions of the back of the skull is always kind of funky, and then I kind of have to carve into it a bit. But I mean, generally like the back of the skull is kind of a little bit further up than you think of it as. But the way the neck fuses to the back of the skull makes it look bigger than it is when it's fused to an actual neck. Anyway, so that's a cool page. Kind of all over the place, but there's a lot of fun stuff there for sure. Alright, so we're going to get to another figure set. We're going to be doing more of these. We're going to start with this dude again, actually. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
The way I do things here is even if someone gives me a trolly answer, I just use it as an opportunity to kind of riff on some information. Because then I can like if I riff on what people are like people that are just messing around, then I can wind up just vibing with dispensing good information, even if people are just like making jokes. Like sometimes somebody making a random joke will sometimes jog memory, some kind of knowledge or something. So I'm trying. The shoulders are looking a little bit buff, but what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to turn this pose from a different angle a little bit. So there's a little bit more from the front, but using the Loomis skeleton. Shoulder's a little bit kind of funky, but whatever. I'm just using the gesture forms right now. So that leg's going to be foreshortened. This one's going to be have a little bit more. So the upper body's looking really beefy. Get rid of that. Probably be more like this, like over, kind of hunched. Like this, at this angle that I've got the camera in. This is a somewhat similar pose to the dude on screen, but at a different angle. I think his arm would be straighter from there. And would probably be back further. Anyway, I don't have enough time to really dwell on that. There's more stuff I want to do with that, but I'm going to move to the next pose. Oh yeah, you pivoted yeah. Yeah, I always pivot. I tried drawing once and it didn't work. Yeah, you're the guy who said that the other day. I've been watching these streams for hours and hours and I tried drawing once and none of it worked. I mean, I assume that you were drawing, but it was like, I just wanted to kind of riff on that to dispense some knowledge and stuff. Do want to encourage people to speak up in voice chat if they have any questions or comments or whatever, or just banter, because we kind of got a good heading on what we're doing right now. So I would love to encourage people to offer any voice chat input. Folks in Discord. Anybody? Everyone's so shy this evening. We're in the bone zone. You guys shouldn't be shy in the bone zone. How are you guys liking the bone zone?
I'm so glad I got taken to the bone zone.
Oh, I think my Discord volume might be really low. Or just you. Let's beef that up.
Mine
anyway.
or yours?
Let's maximize, because I think I got, yeah, here we go. Alright, so what were we saying?
I said I'm so glad I got taken to the bone zone.
Yeah, at some point in everyone's life, they have to get taken to the bone zone.
No, this has been good. I actually had fun with the what was it?
The bone zone.
Just the Loomis skeletons, like drawing them like instead of drawing like a character like I'd want to. And no, it was a lot of fun.
So like earlier today, we entered the bone zone in Discord voice chat. Like on Ethan Becker's server, like at some point somebody said something about bones. I think somebody was like doing an anatomical skeleton study or something, and then like I just couldn't shut up about making bone jokes and talking about bones, and then everyone else just started talking about bones.
I'm amazed nobody's made a boner joke tonight.
Yeah, there was lots of boner jokes.
Yes.
I mean, every kind of bone related comment. It was like a relentless string of like just bone related puns and shit. Huh?
How humorous.
Aha.
Let me give you a good tibia, kid. Don't metacarpal with me.
The average human has 206 bones, but I have over 400 in my basement.
The average human has the average human has over 7 bones, but I have 78 bones. Give us your bones.
Imagine a commercial like that.
Mhm.
Donate your bones today.
There's a whole bunch of like bone-related videos I actually wanted to make a stupid-ass playlist before class for to play to amuse people. But that we'll have to hold off on that if I do anything like that to enter the bone zone again. There's everything from like every fucking stupid thing, spooky, scary skeletons, corpse bride clips. Let's see what else. There's the Tim and Eric episode where they want people to give us your bones. This bone must be destroyed because it is not just for demonstration. Like Richard Dunn didn't have enough bones, and they needed to do a charity drive to manufacture bones for Richard Dunn.
Give us your bones.
Give us your bones. Give us your bones.
Wait, can I ask a question for the previous one?
Is it about bones?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me your bone. Bone me with your question.
How would you draw the shoulder part, like from the Loomis?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, that's kind of. You mean like the shoulder muscle, or do you mean like the bone? The bone.
The bone.
It is tricky, and I need to get more warmed up to doing it. But like, it's really complicated. And we're gonna have to be like a whole class dedicated just to the shoulder, and just to the bone, the so-called bone zone. But like the first thing you have to understand is how the clavicle works, and the clavicle is this fucking bicycle handle thing that is really kind of a pain in the ass to wrap your head around. And then you have to understand how the fucking scapula creates the kind of like circular bone zone sort of thing that's going on there, which is sort of what I'm sketching on screen here. But Proko's got some videos on it where he explains it, shoulder stuff, with shoulder bone things. But for now, like for like the Loomis skeleton, for example, that kind of like Batman cape thing, that's kind of like a simplified version of a combination of the scapula, little bits of the deltoid, and like kind of how it creates a little house basically for the upper arm joint to sit inside of. Basically, if you look at the on-screen reference of those gestural Loomis skeletons up here, like it creates kind of a little house for the arm joint to sit inside of, which is a simplification basically of the bones and also the muscles there. Like it helps to kind of like, before you kind of really dig into how the anatomy actually works, to understand these kind of simplification tools that sort of like cheat the same function that thing is supposed to have. So you kind of understand what these freaking complex things are doing. And also so you have something you can throw down before you try to like work out more complex anatomy if you need it. But yeah, we like I said, we're going to get into the shoulder anatomy is a really grotesque, complicated beast, and we're going to have to spend some special time on that. That is actually a problem area that I need to practice more too. Lots of bendy bone poses, yes. People are very bendy. Especially when they're in the bone zone. I have over 2 bones. That's all you need.
I don't believe you. You have 1 bone.
There was like a there was a boneless lady love of my life that we came up with when I was in the chat with people in the bone zone. I forget what her name was. It was like Meat Mantha or something. This lady that has no bones, who's the love of my life, basically. So here we go. Landmarks, dot, dot, dot. Look, you can throw down some landmarks over your gesture drawing. Look at that. Starting to then I figure out like where the a good way to kind of figure out where the collar. Here's the cheat for the collarbone. You figure out where the top of the shoulder is positioned, depending on where the position of the shoulder is. You can kind of like GPS, sort of fill in a general idea where the clavicle is. As long as you know where like that top of that shoulder, that pointy shoulder joint is. Somewhere in there, you can kind of infer where what the clavicle's up to. Bit of the crotch there, corners, the hips. Yeah, there are some problem areas in the human anatomy that I'm going to definitely have to pay attention to. One is hands, another is the shoulder joint. Those are the hip joint right here. Those are some areas I'm definitely going to have to pay close attention to in my studies for sure. Those are areas that I definitely struggle with. And we will be covering them because these classes are basically my study sessions as much as they are for you guys. Hi, Ghost. Ghost of all pics in chat and on Twitch chat. Also, remember to keep in mind that the line of action is not the spine. But you can sometimes, when you're doing like these quick gesture drawings, it's okay to kind of use the line of action as the cheaty spine. Just as long as you remember that fact. Like, line of action is not the spine. That's sort of what I did here. Like this spine. I was thinking of a spine when I did this, but this is kind of a line of action a little bit. Like I could use the rest of this down here for the rest of the pose or something. Although I think like the line of action would be something more like this. For this pose. Like that. Remember to keep thinking about these things three-dimensionally, like think about like what vanishing point those little landmarks on the hips and the rib cage are going off to, for example. I don't know how this guy got in here. I think it was oh, no, yeah, I put this in here because this is like a really kind of a plain turnaround, a plain like double-sided turnaround figure that you can sort of quickly throw down a gesture to. And then it's very clear about where his landmarks are. What the tilt of them is, at least. There's the tilt of that. Remember, this is like a GPS system. These landmarks. There's the tilt of that, bottom of the ribcage there. Actually, it's more like level, I would say. It's like this is more parallel. This is more of a tilt. There, you get like the top of the shoulders there. Something like that. Build the clavicle off that. Sternum about there. But you know that stuff where like archaeologists like they find like a few pieces of parts of an animal skeleton and then they reconstruct most of the animal from that part. You can do the same thing, surprise, surprise, with human anatomy. So when you have like a little bits and pieces of information to work with a human figure, you can use that to extrapolate and build off of if you understand how the landmarks work and like how to go from here. Like I have enough information down here that I can keep building and like build a human being on top of this and start like adding in the muscle groups. Like I'm gonna do a quick anatomy, a muscle anatomy drill real quick. Let's get the abdominals in, the external obliques. Get the serratus muscles there. There's the pectoralis major, the deltoid, bicep, tricep. Just a quick rundown. Really worried about making them look particularly great. I'm just trying to like drill my memory. But just a little taste. Remember when your figures are looking wobbly, that may be time for you to enter the bone zone. Yeah, I mean, like, as hard as and rigid as the bones of the body are, remember that they are organic shapes, and they are part of a organic form, which is the human figure. So, as like geometric you can think of them as when you simplify them, remember that they are really complex things that play to the flow of a muscular body. So that means like the connective tissue of the body isn't just about the muscles and the bones, it's also about the gestural flow of the figure. And your understanding of how the figure works should be driven by gesture, mainly. And that's something that Steve Houston went over when we were watching his video. In one of our little study sessions. He emphasizes combining, like, you want to go back and forth between studying gesture and studying structure. Structure, of course, also includes anatomical information. But structure is mainly about like 3D forms. Like, here's gesture. Gesture is something like this. Here's structure. And sometimes you can combine the two, like you'd usually do that by adding a curve to the structure. Like that. That makes it more dynamic. So that's a structure and a gesture combined, basically. And if you want to, like inherently when you're studying something really dry like anatomy or structures of anatomy and stuff, it's going to get very stiff. And sometimes that's okay when you're kind of like learning the stuff and you're paying attention to the memorization phase of things, where you internalize. Okay, Google, stop. But you want, but once you start to get it in your bloodstream, you want to err on the side of being more dynamic. So even if it's incorrect, but it's dynamic. Dynamic and preferably confident. Like, you want to make really, really confident errors. You want to make really, really strident errors where it's blatantly obvious what's going wrong with it, but you want to have confidence in what you do. And that takes time. That takes like building yourself up through practice, or to make those confident errors. Time is it? It's 8:07. Wow. Okay, Google, set timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, and that's starting now.
Okay, Google, add 10 minutes to timer.
Done. 10 minutes added to your 7-minute timer.
Okay.
You've got 16 minutes and 56 seconds to go.
Okay, Google, add 3 minutes to timer.
Done. 3 minutes added to your timer.
Alright, so what I'm going to do is, you can take a little short break if you want to. I'm going to keep sketching and vibing and doodling on the poses that we got here and whatever's going on. Maybe shake my hand out at the very least so I can get some blood going in it. But we're kind of like on the what would be normally considered like the last set right now. And we're going to keep going until about 8:30, about 20 minutes or so, whenever the timer buzzes. And I want to open things up to questions, and I do want to encourage people to stick around after the class because I have something very important to show you about, like related to my personal project stuff that I was talking about, where I was building that castle. And also because, like, one of the things I want to show you off stream tonight is that documentary I was talking about on the secrets of the castle. It's really fucking good. It's a really fucking good documentary. I love vibing. I love vibing to like learning about medieval architecture. So I want to share that with you all after the stream ends on my Discord. Watch that video, and I'll also be I'll also show my Valheim build, my Valheim creative mode build that I've been working on, that town that I've been building, that I want to use as a movie set for my storyboards, or a starting point for making my movie sets. I wonder if I should, even if I'm going to be on there for like a few minutes, I should probably change the stream game tag to Valheim when we do that too. I'm not gonna delay the stream, so like that end bit with Valheim is going to be part of the record upload stream. What's cool about these landmarks is if you can start making them second nature in your drawing, then you can start literally just like tap to add them in and kind of GPS your way around the drawing and stuff. Yeah, like I said, we're not going for perfection here. We're trying to understand these tools and play freely with them. you get pretty drawings out of like using these tools as a starting point and then spending time refining what you're doing. In the future, I think we may actually do some kind of session like that. I just haven't figured out how we're going to format it just yet. But I want to have something maybe in the future where we kind of spend more time really like slowing down to actually try to get a good drawing. This doesn't necessarily mean we will, but the point is to struggle to try to get a good drawing. A lot of this stuff is a lot of sketching with mechanics that are good starting points. But I kind of want to maybe do some stuff in the future here where we try to fit this stuff functionally together into some kind of productive end. That could be for long pose figure drawing classes where we try to really really sit down and try to make a good drawing. Or it could be character drawing or animation or something. I'll figure out what that could be. I don't want to like kind of rush into something that I don't feel confident with streaming just yet. But we'll see how that goes. You can see like I'm starting to understand a little bit. Like I raised up that landmark there. His arms raised up. Get that landmark over here at the top of the shoulder there. This landmark over here, landmark over the knee. Kind of use it to kind of, these are helpful for kind of like thinking, going through the figure and starting to think about it in 3D and stuff too, because you get these dots that are kind of like GPS pointing yourself in different spots in 3D space. So I'm taking a storyboard class next month, but I'm on the hunt to try to find a suitable figure drawing class that I'm going to take also in the near future. Got a few ideas. Yeah, it's like a body constellation. Exactly. Should look like a little kind of a star map of the body. But the closest thing to homework I'm going to give for this class is I want people to keep playing with the Loomis skeleton and keep playing with adding anatomical landmarks to the figure. Try to, like I said, both Proco and Michael Hampton have really good anatomical landmark stuff, but if you have like an anatomy book that also talks about anatomical landmarks, you can use that. You also don't need to use all of them. I would try to like stick with the ones that are mainly the most helpful, especially for certain things you struggle with. Some of the ones that I think are the most helpful are, like I mentioned earlier, the bottom and top of the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the corners of the pelvis, pit of the crotch, because it creates kind of a triangulation point between those, sternum, the top and the bottom of the sternum, the tops of the shoulders, that would be the bony protrusion right there. That would be like the bony protrusion right there of your shoulder when you reach up and when you raise your arm up, and you can feel that divot, that little bony area in there sticks out. That area kind of rises up with your clavicle. Your clavicle is also itself a landmark. Essentially, it's a long landmark as opposed to a dot. But you can use the dots to kind of start to figure that out. Just like plot out those points, and then just remember that there's going to be like a 3D kind of bicycle handle shape between them. Like this. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to an actual figure drawing class, because I've kind of like self-driven my practice over the last year, and so it's going to be very interesting how much my approach changes when I have an instructor that's like, no, that's a bad habit, do this or something. For now, I'm just trying to like make sense of the information as best I can and share it with you guys, because the best way to learn is to teach. To try to teach it to other people. That's why I started doing these. These Twitch sessions, both as a way to kind of force me into a habit where I won't slack off on getting regular drawing practice in, and also as a way to kind of improve my skills by teaching other people stuff. So we got this dude here. Let's put a few landmarks in. So we got boom, 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 boom. Right there, we can tell like the tilt of his pelvis there. We can tell the tilt of his torso there. Get like the angle of his chest there from the sternum. We can get like his shoulders kind of doing this. So this clavicle is going to be doing something like that. This one's going to be kind of over here. These are guesstimates because we're just doing like a quick sketch. I definitely want to take a look at people's drawings in Discord chat after we get done here, before I move on to showing off the Valheim nonsense and Valheim and Castle nonsense. Fight your way back into this. I was not kicked out of the industry. I got sick. Really fucking sick. Ugh. Still have some. Oh, it's a hand. Skip that. Not being able to physically draw when you really, really want to draw is like hell. Is hell on earth for an artist. There's another artist I really admire who actually just went through kind of similar recently, by the way. He's in recovery now, but he's an amazingly talented artist who had like some severe medical problems recently, and he's kind of clawing his way back drawing shape. He couldn't draw for like almost like like 3/4 of a year, I think.
Jeez.
Which is almost as long as I could draw. Someone said, yeah, you have a jaw injury that prevents you from playing violin anymore. That sucks. Well, maybe you can play the electric violin. What's that one really kind of like overplayed famous song that starts with kind of electric violin riff?
Flight of the Bumblebees?
No. It's not a classical music song. Might be like Beastie Boys. It's either Beastie Boys or Chemical Brothers. Leaning towards Chemical Brothers.
Is it like an emo song, or?
No, it's a... There's lyrics in it. Dun, 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 dun. Trying to think of what it is. It's either a Beastie Boys or a Chemical Brothers song, but let's see here. I'm gonna try Google and I'm going to try to search for the song. Chemical Brothers electric violin riff. It's like a slightly off key. Galvanize by the Chemical Brothers, which I cannot play on stream, but look it up. Dun, dun, dun. That's it. Anyway, we're kind of chill and winding down now. This was a good sesh for sure. Let's meet up tomorrow. I want to keep doing this. Do some more in-depth anatomy studies and maybe apply them some to some of my character stuff I'm doing. I really like this little happy dude here. And this little silly Bruce Lee caricature. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information we went over tonight, for sure. It was really, really fun and valuable. I really enjoyed the session. Yeah, this is, got a little bit overwhelming with the amount of information in this little kind of segment, but I hope that people were starting to wrap their heads around what we were doing as we kind of moved further down. Like, how are you guys feeling about, how did you guys like the session tonight?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I do like how I'm doing this, how the sessions I'm doing now are kind of like, I keep saying we're gonna plan this or that to do stuff like in the off study sessions, and I keep saying we're gonna do this or that for certain future study sessions. But honestly, I think the way I should approach it is we're gonna do that, but with an asterisk, because like it'll be like, this other thing might be more valuable to study instead, or I overlooked this was like the next other thing that we're doing is the logical progression to study on next or something. So same thing with the study session tomorrow. I do want to look more into this and Proco and what was the other thing I mentioned? It was Proco and Proco and the Anatomy for Sculptors book I want to take a look at tomorrow. But there's some other things that I'm sort of bouncing around in my head, but what we might also look at tomorrow. But those two things I definitely want to see if we can do a study session for tomorrow. I mean, all this drawing prep is fantastic and lovely, but at some point I want to move in the direction of like making stuff with it. That's why I'm taking that storyboarding class, because that storyboarding class is going to be locking me into a format of trying to utilize this stuff to make stories. For now, this is like playtime. I'm still like, I'm writing script stuff for the story that I have in mind, and I'm trying to do like build the sets in that video game in Valheim as an experiment to kind of learn that. I'm gonna use between now and the time that now and the time of the class to kind of experiment and do playtime and prep and like have fun chasing different things that kind of naturally complement storyboarding stuff I'm going to be doing there, so that I'm not locked into a very linear way of approaching it. Like I've had the fun to, look at this, look at the difference here. Like this is my super stiff warm-ups from earlier today. Then this is when we started getting into the class some more. Then this is more gestural and stuff. A little bit further along, getting into the anatomical landmarks and a little bit more gesture. More landmarks and more kind of little shoulder study. Now it's starting to come together and click a little bit more. Feeling pretty good. This guy coming out of me here. Dipping more, like if you notice, like I did these when I was like talking, so these kind of dip more into the gesture drawing territory here instead of landmarks. Yeah, these ones are more landmarky and anatomy-ish. These feel pretty good. I really like this guy right here. So this is kind of, this one pose right here is kind of like an ethos of what we practiced today, to an extent, as far as the GPS landmarks go. That and like a little bit of this guy. Definitely this and that and that. But it's good stuff. I mean, like, the point of this is to get the information in our bloodstreams and to like build a little bit more of our artist muscle tissue from practicing this stuff. So we're gonna hopefully practice some more of it tomorrow. That'll be fun. So I'm gonna take a look at what people are doing on the Discord stream. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer? I'm just gonna cancel the timer. Okay, Google, stop timer.
No problem. Cancelled.
Cancel. All right. So this is really gestural. It looks like you're looking at. This one looks like it was. Yeah, that was Loomis. Very messy notes. Yeah. Looks like you're kind of squeezing stuff into the page and sort of. I do like some of the gesture stuff you're doing. Some of the stuff kind of feels like it's not really fitting together quite yet, and I think the biggest problem I see here is you're cramming way too much onto a single page, so it's kind of making it rough to organize. It's rough to like you're kind of having to draw around stuff a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, I see you.
That's mine.
Huh?
That's mine you're looking at.
Yeah. Let's see here. I see you trying to push gesture and trying to play with curves and stuff. Yeah, this one's looking pretty good. That one's looking pretty good. That one's looking pretty good. Your skull needs work. The eye sockets and the.
I tried to do a freehand skull.
Yeah. And you got to practice. I mean, to do a freehand skull, you have to have studied a bunch of real skulls and have them internalized. So I kind of like have the 3D form in my head.
I was with you in the class on Monday, and so that was the first time I think I drew the skull.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you want to study skull, just get a bunch of turnaround reference of realistic skull, like actual skulls, or those 3D models of skulls that we had, and just start practicing them relentlessly.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the skull is a complex object. So after you have like a Loomis, after you have a good understanding of how the Loomis head works, you can apply some of the ideas of the Loomis head to a skull, but then you keep in mind that the skull is a complex object and you're supposed to break down and think about it in a little bit more abstract, planar way, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But the point of studying the skull, especially for early on for a student, is to try to take a complex object and not be intimidated or thrown off by it. So I do strongly encourage getting a bunch of skull practice from observation like that. Okay, let's take a look at these. These are more cartoony. Some of these suffer from some balance issues. Like this character looks like he's about to fall over here. This guy actually feels pretty, even though it's profile, the way that they are standing in 2D space here feels really balanced. That feels like a really balanced figure right there. Really balanced cartoon character figure. Even this character here feels, the foot's a little out of place, but overall this feels like a nice, these both feel like cartoonified versions of the Loomis skeleton, which is fine. Like, I actually, there's different, I've seen like different artists do like some people's Loomis skeletons will sometimes look more cartoony and sometimes they'll look more realistic. It's fine. It's a similar kind of information. But I see like you kind of struggling with like, you're kind of using this sort of ball socket thing. That's not the way that the Loomis skeleton pelvis works, although a lot of times, like myself included, I'll sometimes cheat it to be that way. But basically like, it's actually two discs that are kind of like at separate angles, kind of like this sort of thing. So if you're looking at the Loomis skeleton from the front, like the discs of the pelvis are doing that. They're also tilted slightly towards the viewer if you're looking at it from the front. And now that's kind of like a little bit absurdly complex, in my opinion. But you can see what I'm talking about a little bit more in these little drawings, in the drawings up here. The way that Loomis handles these. They're a little bit easier to handle if you think of them in the kind of pliable gestural way that he's drawing them there, honestly. Like you can see he's playing with this mannequin model he's got. So I would probably encourage playing with it kind of how he plays with it on this page. I may try that tomorrow too, because it's not too out of the ballpark to kind of do stuff like this. This is a more kind of a cartoony, exaggerated version of the same idea. that I'm doing right now. I could do like a cartoony, exaggerated rib cage sample. And that kind of plays into that modern day James video. We saw a clip of shape language for anatomy, where you can think about exaggerated forms. Like this is something along the lines of how I would probably handle the anatomy of like my goblin character or something. Like, because he's come from a more cartoony, exaggerated world, so his anatomy would probably be shape language more kind of like on this kind of dynamic end of things.
Okay.
But anyway, let's see here. Look at some other Discord stuff. Just look at that. This guy looks like he's about to fall over to the left side. I would maybe move that over there and then straighten those. Let me actually do a quick demonstration of that.
I bear all my mistakes to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone makes mistakes. I'm making assloads of mistakes constantly on these streams, so don't worry about making mistakes. Everyone should be encouraged to make and confront mistakes.
I'm trying to.
Yeah. So, all right. So this guy right here, literally like, well, first off, the hips don't. So I presume we're looking at him from the rear. So that means that the spine is going to be feeding into that little kind of triangle wedge shape. I think the rib cage can be brought down a little bit more, like here. So let's adjust the head. Presume the head is kind of tilted that way, so like this kind of thing. And then you want to think about how you wrap the shoulders over the the body form. I'm gonna try to have like an exaggerated pose that's not too off the mark from what you had, but I'm gonna try to maybe see if I can balance it. I'm gonna try to maybe strategize about how I would do that. So let's see here. Maybe like, well, first off, his feet are gonna probably be way down here. Let's try maybe. Let's see here. I'm trying to see how I can maybe exaggerate some of this a bit. I'm actually just going to use what you have here because I kind of like how it's placed now that I have the legs in. But as far as the arms go, I mean. But then, yeah. Trick to doing the scapula is to wrap them over the form. Another thing, when we get more into the in-depth way of how the rib cage works from the rear, like remember that the ribs are kind of doing this sort of thing in the back. Like if you look at the rib cage from the top, the rib cage is in the simplified form of the rib cage usually looks something like that, but in reality it's doing this. Like this is the back of the rib cage right here. About here is like the neck opening or so. So it's like doing something like this when you look at it from the top. Keep that in mind because the fact of that comes into play for how certain muscle groups work in the back. Keep that in mind for later. You don't have to be as concerned with it when you're doing the Gluteus skeletons, but I just wanted to make a note of that for future reference. Anyway, I kind of like how this guy's feeling now. And then I'll just add like a floor grid here. So I kind of deviated from what you did to an extent. Let's do a little simpler version of what I fix here, where I just fix the legs, get him in the right spot, maybe fix the rib cage just a little bit. Like, let's try to get it balanced. Should get him a little bit more proportionate.
Did I make the legs a bit short? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the legs are a bit short. Okay, here's a less playful exaggerate. I kind of like made his legs long on purpose there. Just kind of play with the exaggeration. Anyway, I'll upload this to chat real quick because it was a draw over. In case you want to refer to it. Let's have a look at some other folks' stuff. Actually, first off, let's go back to yours, because there were some other things I did like in this. I do like the confident lines that you have in pushing the gesture. You're trying to make strong statements, and that's very important. And I want you to lean into that more, because like this, even though this guy is leaning over to the side, this is a strong statement. Like I could see this. Let's actually I want to play with your pose now. Let me try. So here's another take. Let's pretend for a second you understand the rules of balance, but you want to break and bend them in a way that's fun and expressive. So let's say I'm gonna flip your pose around and say that he's from the front, and now I'm gonna do something really funky. I'm gonna flip the pose around from the front, but I'm gonna like. Well, this guy is a little not perfectly balanced, but we're doing him that way because it looks funky and fun. So we can intentionally play with the balance a bit. So he's got like a really severe lean to his body, following this kind of anime gestural sort of JoJo pose sort of push to him. We could push that even more. We could thrust the hips up more. Like here, let me try this.
Oh jeez. What 3 hours in the bone zone does to you.
3 hours on bones, so you can see how to break them. So look at the pushed out hips right there. There we go. So that was really fun. This is so fun that I might actually use this in something for tomorrow for myself. I'm going to take a very self-requisition break in a little bit. I want to take a look at... I'm getting good vibes from doing these, so I'm going to do a couple more, maybe. Or I'm going to take a look at a couple more people. I don't know if I'll do another draw over, but I really am enjoying doing those little critiques. So...
Can you mine? If that's possible.
So let's screenshot and upload this dude. So yeah, this dude is definitely not obeying the rules of balance, but he looks fun. As long as you understand what's being broken and why, like you say, "Fuck you, it's fun."
Can you look at mine?
Hmm?
Can you look at mine?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's there. I mean, there is a good rhythm to him. I don't think he's probably the best balance, but that's okay because he's kind of doing a JoJo lean, something like Polnareff or some shit. That's what I was trying to go for. But yeah, let's take a look. What were you saying? Sorry, I couldn't hear whoever was talking just now.
Oh, sorry.
Barry. What were you saying?
Could you take a look at mine? It's kind of
Sure.
messy.
Yeah. Looks like you're pretty new. I do like the you do have some confident, clean lines in these, but I think you're kind of struggling with putting the pieces together. So the figures are looking kind of piecemeal. I would want to kind of steer you in the direction of thinking of the figure as a singular unit. You have to unify in some way. Some of these I do see bits and pieces of stuff. Like if I cover up that, like this head is way out of proportion right here. But if I cover up that head, that body's not looking too bad. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of like slidey and like I think I would want to like. For you, I think the best thing you could probably do is you would want to go back through drawings like these with another pen or a pencil, and try to see where you can fix stuff. Like, let me see if I can show an example real quick. Because like even if you get like a drawing bad the first time, that becomes an opportunity to fix the correction, or kind of like duct tape and glue it into something that works better. Even if you kind of fuck that up, if you're not really feeling the rhythm of being able to fix something, at least like walking through the act of struggling to try to fix something will help you. So like this figure, for example, there isn't too much, like this isn't too far off the mark for me. I think maybe the thigh could be a little lengthened, but I think it's just because the calf is long. So just do that. And let's see, the gesture line, you're keeping the limbs simple, which is good. But let's see here, I can think of this as like 3 dimensions right there. There's enough information for me to infer the vanishing point, the chest, and so on. I do like that you did include like the face wedge right there for that kind of like the head angle. I'm just going to include that on the proportionate head here a little bit. If I remember, this guy's head was kind of tilted back in the original pose, but I'm not going to be worried too much about that right now. Let's see here. So like, yeah. And if we remember from the Gottfried Bommes stuff, like we know that the spine bends like that when someone's seated like that. So good job. And let's see, we got the anatomical landmarks of the shoulders. It should probably be at this angle-ish. But he's got this shoulder that's punched up, so maybe more like this. So I'm gonna do like a little simplified thing for his. No, his arm was straight out, wasn't it? It was like this, if I recall, like that kind of. Anyway, so let's take a look at some other ones here. I can maybe show some other examples, like this guy right here. So you're wrestling with the right forms, but they're kind of like out of place a little bit, like scooting up, enlarging the rib cage and scooting up the pelvis a bit might help with some of this on this guy. It's up to you how you like try to wrestle with correcting this stuff. And I would encourage you to try to do draw-overs over your own stuff to try to see where you can fix stuff. Like just look at artists that do this stuff really well. But look at a bunch of Andrew Loomis stuff. Look at a bunch of Michael Hampton stuff and stuff. Have it like alongside you, and along with like whether like some photo reference or whatever of figures, and try to make fixes and corrections. And wrestle with making fixes of your corrections yourself. Because you want to exercise, you want to get that those art bicep curl workouts, and do the little bits of course correction. If you get something you're getting is kind of off, you want to walk through the process of exercising it. And when you do a sheet like this, that there's stuff that's going wrong, or there's things that things that are going wonky. Oh, I did a crappy drawing sheet. Oh, no, no, no. That is an opportunity for another iteration of practice. Like, you go back through, you look for stuff that's wonky. Like, for example, this really oversized rib cage right here. A really oversized head on this little sketch back here. Let's go in here. I did like that hips. I'm going to use the hips as a measuring point. I'm going to maybe like lengthen the thigh a bit back there. I did like the overall feel of that clavicle there. Let's keep the thrust of the body there. Just like make those like go back in and try to think about different adjustments you can make to make the figures a little bit more proportionate, make them feel like more like they're kind of a singular unit, a singular character, like a singular shape or singular form that's working together and pulling in a similar direction. Look for like landmarks and stuff you can maybe plot out that might help you. For proportional markers and things like that. Whoop. A second. I think it's doing the autosave thing. Yeah, there. So this guy right here, we can definitely... This guy right here, I think the first thing I would do is establish a really strong, a much stronger, much more confident line of action from him. And I do like what you did with the arms, actually. So I'm going to use some of that. And so like I see bits and pieces of stuff that as you start getting more comfortable with the stuff, like this, your strength, I do see aspects of like your strengths that are going to shine through the more practice you get in. And I'm gonna say like, and this goes for everyone here. Anytime you make a sheet that like this, for example, anytime you make a sheet of something, that's an opportunity to go back in, and you can either move on to another sheet and stuff, or you can go back in and do drawovers over your own stuff, try to make fixes and stuff. You can also like do stuff like you can make characters out of your poses from drawing sessions. I've done that a few times, and I'm going to be trying to push myself to do that more. Okay, here's another one right here, the hips. I think I can beef up to about here. But other than that, the upper body works just fine if I just do that. Yeah, there we go. I'm not gonna do too much for that, but you get the idea. Like, so I hope this gives you a little bit of a shot of confidence for how to approach your stuff, like getting your art workouts in. Like this stuff takes a lot of time and a lot of practice to sink in, bit by bit, piece by piece. And part of the struggle is to iterate on your own work. So I would strongly encourage doing what I do, but everyone here doing that with your own stuff. If you got through a drawing session tonight, where you weren't really feeling it, or you're feeling kind of confident, scribbling like, oh god, I'm drawing so badly. That's an opportunity to take what you drew into a drawing app or something, lower opacity on it, and draw. Or if you're doing it traditionally, grabbing another pen or some tracing paper or something, and try to draw more confidently, more methodically, fix things, make it a nicer drawing, fix errors, and try things that you didn't quite get right in the initial drawing and stuff. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, those are very nice sketchy face. Was this today? That was today, yes. Very, very nice sketchy faces. Killing it every time I see more of their stuff.
Thank you.
This figure looks like it's about to fall over here. I think that could be fixed by the placement of the foot. But overall, I do like the feeling of it, and the floor grid is really nice. There's some issues with the feet here, I think, but overall this feels really good. I like this I like the way, the exaggerated rhythmical, cartoony way that the figures step in here. This shows off how to like play with the Loomis skeleton and Loomis skeletons and how to draw or similar kinds of rigs in a very playful, active way for sure. Some more stuff from Barry. More stuff playing with landmarks. Oh, this is I like what you're doing here for sure. I would say pay close attention to the pelvis. I think you haven't quite wrapped your head around how that thing works. But I already showed the demonstration of it. If you have trouble with that, you can substitute a different shape. Like I think you understand the shape a little more. I'm noticing that you are having that common issue when people are first starting to do with the torso, where they make the torso, the pelvis too small and stuff. In this case, the rib cage is too small. This one's a little better, but I think there's some proportional issues. Yeah, there's maybe more of the mass of the torso and maybe a little more of the pelvis there. But I do like the feel that this has, the flow and the feel that has, and I do like the feel this one feels. These both feel very physical. There's just like minor issues with like. Actually, let me show you. There's not much that needs to be done to fix that drawing at all, honestly. To have it feeling good for me. Let's see. I should really be doing more of these kind of draw over corrections after class like this. This is really fun, actually. I'm enjoying doing this, and it's also giving me more insight into my own thought process whenever I do draw-overs like this. I pick up on stuff that other people are seeing in their work when they're drawing that I wouldn't have also. Let's see here. Alright, so I do like the overall feel of this. You could say that he's possibly falling over this way, but for me, it kind of feels like this character is doing a swagger when he's walking or something, you know? So that's not bothering me too much. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to fix them hips. And it's not too hard of an issue to fix it. If you want to stick with the Loomis skeleton approach, it would be something along these lines, I want to say, for how you would fix it. So like something like that. But you don't necessarily need to use that. Let's say like I'm thinking of it more in terms of sculpting into it to be more like 3D dish shape. That's more like the form of the pelvis, because I kind of feel like adding that frontal pelvic bone to this would help with that. Let me zoom back from this a bit. It looks like he has diapers now. So I'm looking at this, and there's like a certain way I'm kind of reading it that feels to me like I don't need much to add to it, and some of it involves like adding like a little bit of kind of a bow line for the front of the pelvis, like the crotch area, a little bit. So I'm kind of trying to maybe not murder myself with what I'm seeing. Oh yeah, this is starting to feel a little better now. Yeah, there's not too much more that needs to be. I would maybe use this as an opportunity to kind of do more of something along the lines more of how the pelvis works. But for me, it feels like it doesn't need much. Like maybe just like change the angle of that. Change the angle of that, and maybe like make it more apparent that this is fused in there. Something. So like this is more like that. Like that. So then you get like this kind of, I'm doing a center line down the torso here. You get this kind of thing going on here. Yeah, that feels a little better now, actually. Yeah. So this one, I think you actually did a better job on how that Loomis pelvis works. It's not tilted in, but that's okay. And then like the size of this rib cage, let's correct it while I'm at it. You got the front. I think you got the front of the torso there. It's like that. So like if the anatomical landmarks were going to be here, they'd be there and there, there and there. This torso twist kind of thing going on. And then I think you got the front of the rib cage here, right? Yeah. Kind of bend. I don't think the spine would be doing that inside the rib cage. It would be bending here though. Oh wait, no, is it a sideways bend? Sideways torso? Or is that was I right the first time? Is that supposed to be the opening?
You were right. That's supposed to be the opening.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be too worried about that, but like remember what I said about like this part of the spine is generally pretty rigid compared to like this, which bends more. But that's okay. That's just like the gestural bend of the body. But you know, actually, let's fix it because we can say that this makes a little bit more sense now to me for how a body would behave. It's still going to be exaggerated, but let's maybe do it like this. Turn the torso towards us. Maybe I'm going to twist the pelvis in a different direction a little bit. I think I'm definitely going to have to do way more drawing demos of people's stuff in the future because I think that's something that I've been slacking off on doing, and that is something that's really important for doing sessions like these because it's a huge benefit for me, and it also helps people make. So this guy might be twisting too much. He like to the point that I think he's fucking his guts up, but maybe like lower the rib cage down a bit. That might help it a bit. But anyway, I just wanted to play with that. So yeah, I'll do a quick screenshot of this for chat. Any advice on learning line of action? Yes, there is. There's a lot of videos on line of action. Proco does a really good video on it. But the best place I think that I've seen for really getting intuitive with the line of action is on Schoolism. There is a course from a guy named Alex Wu, who is a Pixar figure drawing artist. Well, his whole thing is fantastic, and we've been using it as a point of reference for a lot of the way that I've been running these gesture classes. But I do strongly recommend signing up for him on Schoolism. And the first week session in particular is something that's worth repeating multiple times, and it covers line of action, and it strips down line of action to kind of a gestural cuneiform. And it's a fantastic way to start pushing yourself. And line of action is the foundation. The way that he approaches line of action is the foundation of everything else in the course, and it's kind of changed the way I see my own work since I took it. Stuff. I've still got to go back in and look over some more of his stuff because we were going to move through some of the other phases of what he does there for our sessions here, but we're kind of deviating away from that because I kind of feel like now's the time to go into anatomy and structure a little bit more. But I've gotten so ingrained with my gesture that I'm confident about utilizing anatomy without stiffening up too much. Oh, anyway, let's see here. Take a look at Discord and see if there's anything else that we should look at. I don't know if I'll have time for a demo, but I'm going to take a quick glance just to take a look at what other people have done. I do want to end the stream pretty soon. But I do. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on Valheim because I want. Well, first off, I'm going to show this. So this is what we're going to watch after the stream ends. Secrets Castle. Secrets of the Castle right here. This 6-part series right here. We're going to watch like maybe like the first part of it. It is fantastic. It is so good. It is like so satisfying to watch and so interesting. I learned so much watching this. But it's on medieval castle building and medieval life and stuff. As there's inside of a medieval castle that they are building using the actual tools and techniques and stuff. So we're gonna check that out after class. So stick around in the Discord here. I'll be playing it in here. But first, I'm going to bring up Valheim real quick. Let's close this out. Oh shit! That was my demos. That was my demos page. I better save that as my demos before I forget. So I need to keep these organized for my uploads later. Let's see here. Okay. 2, 4, 2021. Last demos. With bone zone. There we go. There we go. Save that, and I'll just save a backup. There we go. Close down Clip Studio. And I'm going to start up Valheim real quick. I'm going to have to, let's see here, where's the Twitch dashboard so I can change the game to Valheim. I'm going to have to finagle with some things in OBS so people can see it.
Did you check out mine?
Who's?
The Nick Walk 94.
What? Oh, yours. Oh yeah.
The Nick Walk 94.
Oh, Nick Walk 94. Okay, sorry, I thought it was
yeah.
green. Let's see.
No, you already went through.
Yeah, it's the one with the red.
With which one? Oh.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I wanted to get. Well, I wanted to get to all of them tonight, but just attend to the next one, and I'll try to get to you too. Okay.
Okay.
I will say this though. It's very evident that you're new, and that's okay. Like I said, I think the first thing that would there's 2 things that would help you. First, that would help you in study time, off time, is the Draw a Box website.
Okay.
That one will help you get the lines that you need and stuff. You want to start with the part 0 and read the text there and watch the videos that are embedded in there. And then just walk through and do the exercises. That'll help you get a little bit more on the same page with stuff. And the other one is, I would strongly recommend checking out that Alex Wu gesture drawing class if you're able to sign up for the $30 a month on Schoolism.
Okay.
Because that one would help inject a lot more confidence and observation and understanding of what you're doing. If you take the Alex Wu gesture drawing thing, it'll be a huge help. The other thing is that if you sign up on Schoolism, there's a bunch of other stuff that you can also get you'll also get access to that was worth also studying. And some of the other stuff here is starting your journey with Cody Gramstad is fantastic, and some of the other ones that are great for beginners, aside from Alex Wu, is Drawing Fundamentals with Thomas Fluharty. And let's see here. I think those are the main ones. There was I think that it's worth looking at Expressive Characters with Walter Tolt, but that might be a little bit too much too early. It's worth looking at him because he's really he shows you how to have a lot of fun with what you're drawing. And I think that would be cool. You can dip into looking at stuff, but like the main ones that I think if you signed up for Schoolism, you would want to the Drawing Fundamentals one and the Gesture Drawing one. and the starting your journey one. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely check
Yeah,
those out
thanks.
if you're able to ever sign up for those. I think you'd benefit a lot from them, as would a lot of the people here, for that matter.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah, but yeah, but keep attending these for sure, because you'll just be exercising your visual language muscles. Those other things will help you fill in extra pieces of the puzzle. That'll help you get better results, though.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'd love to, like I said, I wanted to get more in-depth critiques, but here we're gonna switch over to Valheim real quick because I just wanted to show off what I'm doing. In there, let me shut off Stream Beats real quick. So I'm gonna start Valheim, and I wanted to show off the build that I'm making there. Start the game real quick. I'm gonna have to get OBS set up here. There we go. So it should be playing on the stream now. I'm going to switch the screen on my Discord over to Valheim also. So this is I've got a regular account and a cheat account. And I've got a map that I've been basically like running creative mode cheats on. So you might want to look away. I'm about to enter some cheat commands.
How scandalous.
Scandalous. Valheim creative mode city build. Let's put that in.
How is the house that you were building yesterday?
I'll show that too. Give me a sec. I'll show everything. I'll show everything I've been doing, as I've been using this to research. I've been like watching videos on.
This is a house in the game, right?
Huh?
You're building a house in the game, or?
Yeah, something like that. Oh, one sec here. I gotta change the category to Valheim. There we go. Okay. All right, category set. All right, so I'm. Got to turn on God mode. Look away now. These are the cheat mode commands, and they will spoil the game for you if you know how to use them. All right, so yeah, now I got my God powers. So this is the main build I'm working on right now, which is I'm working on like building like a city and stuff. So I've got different stuff designated, and I got the skeleton. Some ideas. This is the furthest out thing I built so far, which is a lighthouse. I'm planning on building like some there's like shallows over here, so I'm planning on building like some kind of like harbor or some kind of shallow strip. Maybe even raising the land up here to create like a sandbar or something. How the fuck did you get over here? Yeah, Jesus. But yeah, like So like I'm trying to like basically build like a realistic medieval city. Well, not realistic, well, semi-realistic, or at least like based on like some of my ideals of medieval realism. So like this is loosely based on an existing castle plan that I saw drawings of, like a castle that no longer exists, but they had drawings of. So it had a similar approach to entryway, like this, a single like dirt path entryway ramp basically, and there's like similar gatehouses and stuff. I've got like stuff in mind here, like some of these might be like blacksmith stations or like other things. I'm gonna have like a barracks, another thing inside here. Like there's gonna be a silo storage and some other stuff. These are kind of movie sets right now because like they don't really have anything inside them, but I'm probably going to make stuff inside them at some point. This area here is going to be mostly clear cut, with maybe like one or two trees remaining for looks. And this is gonna be like where the main town center is. And there's gonna be like a harbor out over here somewhere. Right over here. The idea being this is gonna be like a trade city that's become kind of a mercantile center. This is gonna be kind of more of an upper class area around here. where there's going to be like some upper class homes and stuff, a little bit more garden type areas, because it's closer to the church because the upper class people have contributed to building the church. Yeah.
After you're done with like these medieval times, are you going to go to another time period?
Well, you can't really in this game. I mean, you could probably try to fake it, but this is a Viking game, and I'm actually kind of going outside the box because it's like Viking stuff, but they do have buildings for like stone buildings, so medieval, like British, European stuff is a little bit different than Scandinavian, Viking type stuff, but I'm hoping they put more build tools in the game. Anyway, this is going to be like kind of a peasant area. This is actually based on an actual peasant hovel, or like these round huts that they would make in medieval Britain. And so I've got like signs up around the place for like where I want to build stuff, notes for myself where I want to build stuff. This is kind of my attempt at doing something like a grain silo here. There, and here is one of my attempts at doing that is these kind of overhang buildings that I actually watched a video that was on why those, like, have you ever seen like those medieval, especially British buildings that have like those kind of like overhang sort of things where like they have a stone base kind of like this, and then like floor up and floor up they build out and like have more floor space for the upper floors. I learned a little bit more why that is. Part of it is the floor base is expensive because it's made of stone. So you can start with a strong floor base, and then you can give yourself more floor space for the upper floors. The other reason is that the floor stakes of a place like this, if they're in the ground, they didn't really have a way of treating and preserving wood as well as they did later. In later times, so they would use like wooden floor stakes in the ground if they were building with a wood base. Using stone as a base means that it's not going to rot out, because if it's in the ground, it's going to rot. But if the wood's above ground, it's going to have less of a chance of rotting. The other reason why they did this is like they would do these for regular structures that were away from cities, but they would also do these a lot in cities because street space needed to be a lot wider, so that I'm gonna be doing that down here. This area is gonna be like kind of a seedy tavern district where there's gonna be like some kind of Diagon alley type things on either side, and it goes over to kind of a lower class hovel area over here on the edge. Up here is where I'm gonna build a huntsman lodge, overlooking the town. And yeah, it should be pretty cool. But yeah, what I'm actually hoping to do is I'm hoping to interest people in coming on and playing, because this game is really easy to co-op play with other people. Like anyone could join on the server that I'm in right now to play, basically. I'm hoping to like entice people and to come in and join me, where I'll basically act as like I'm like an RTS, I'm basically like an RTS, or real-time strategy game player, who's commanding peons to build stuff. And I'd be basically like flying around the place, giving people materials so they can build things. People can also play the game normally and progress through the game normally, killing the bosses and stuff. But I'd be like flying around as kind of a Scandinavian god, basically. I'd be giving people like kind of like some kind of zoning plan sort of things, or like areas where they have like kind of a loose guideline of what they can build there, and they can help me kind of like flesh out the city, and we can kind of, and it would be fun to like collaboratively like create some kind of like create kind of like backstory for the city, and like for how it developed, its history and stuff. And ultimately, I'm using this as a way to kind of apply stuff I'm kind of learning about in medieval architecture. for fun and like medieval cities and stuff. And I'm ultimately using it as a way to kind of think about like film, like think about like how I'm going to use this as like as like a jumping off point for like finding shots for a storyboard or something. Like for example, like here's like, for example, like we have a shot here at night. Like my goblin assassin character is like creeping up against the church. He's looking at where he's going to go up over there, stuff, and he's kind of has to sneak around in here by the church, like by the church up over here, and he has to make sure the coast is clear before he like clears over the wall and gets inside over the side here. Sneak around around here. There might be some like additional gatehouses or guards down over here, and he has to like kind of sneak against this or something, or he might like scale the wall up over here, the nook and cranny there or something. I think along those lines. And also, like, I learned a little bit more about some additional world castles. There's one in Italy that's like this kind of mishmash castle of like pieces from the Roman era, pieces from like certain medieval eras. Different factions took over the castle at certain points. They added different layers and different iterations to it, and it looks like this giant chaotic mishmash, almost like a collage castle. So I'm kind of thinking I might use that idea for this, because this starting point castle right here is a little dull, and also I don't have enough space in here to really do like cool movie set stuff just yet. So I'm thinking I might expand this by thinking in those terms of like how this thing, like how and why this thing would have different additions and wings and expansion added to it, and then that thinking about it in those terms lets me like kind of get playful with it. So I can get like creative and inventive and come up with some cool like set things that would be really fun. Thinking of doing something with this. Like this needs to be some kind of a sacred tree that might have some special mystical stuff that I can build around it to kind of reinforce that idea. But anyway, I'm gonna show something else real quick in another area that I made when I was initially doing some of this stuff. So this was my first area where I was really trying to play with building different things. So these aren't really thought out about where I'd be placing them. Like if I was going to do this over again, these would be spaced out like quite a long ways wider from each other. This is a much larger version of that overhang building that I was talking about. This is a me trying to speed build a basic hovel and dress it up, have it look plausible. This is pretty nice. This is surprisingly cozy looking. Yeah. Then there's this tower right here that I actually have a spiral staircase inside of. And my first attempt at like a gatehouse kind of thing. And then if you look up over here, it should be, yeah. See that up there? That I ripped off from Lord of the Rings. The light beacons from Two Towers, I think. It was either Two Towers of Return of the King. Oh, the bonfire's out. There we go. But yeah. So I've got this is kind of like that mountain base that they have to light the beacons of. Was it Return of the King or Two Towers that did it? I think it was Return of the King. Whoa. Can't get rid of that guy. There we go. Using my god powers to kill everything. Yeah, it made like kind of a mountain base and stuff for fun. I was kind of messing with that. What's cool is this is also functional. So like the wolves that spawn here can't get up on this platform, and the wolves can kill players in like 2 or 3 hits. So, but yeah. So there's that. There's also this wizard tower I started and I haven't really done much with, but I used it at the very least to see how wide out I could get. I could get like the circle ring buildings. And then there's this final thing I'm going to show before I call it quits for the night, or for the stream anyway. I want to play that medieval video after I get done here. There's this scenic little thing here. This little kind of hub area I made. I was experimenting with an idea for like kind of a hub for teleportation rings, and I do like how this area looks like a prog rock album cover from this point of view. Even the way I have the rings arranged and stuff. And it's helped by I set that up there because of this is the first boss spawn area of the game, right here, and it looks really nice. It just happened that like this boss spawn just happens to be in a really nice kind of scenic area that looks like something from a Studio Ghibli film, except for that leaning tree right there. It's just really nice and scenic, and so like adding these little bits and pieces into the nature here, these cobbled architecture stuff, looks kind of neat. This game can get really pretty at times. But anyway, there's that. But actually, if in case you don't want spoilers in this game, I'm about to fly off to a very remote area that I want to show off some other things about this game that I discovered while fly hacking. It's just a couple biomes that are a little bit more endgamey. One of them is an unfinished biome that I might not be able to find again, but we'll see. I'm going way over here to a biome called the Plains. And the Plains biome is very interesting. I have not played in it in the regular game yet on my non-cheaty account. But it looks hella fun and probably hella tough to play in. And I want to show you why when I get over there. Before I log out. Oh, is that? Yeah, this is Plains right here. Okay, well I won't have to go too much further then. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why right here. There's these villages of these guys. And these are probably the most complex enemies I've seen in the game so far. There's shamans of these guys that will buff their teammates. And then there's big guys. These guys kind of remind me of the Breath of the Wild baddies. And they have some more complex looking... This is a simpler camp of the camps that I've seen so far. I don't think there's any of the shamans at that one. I'm gonna fly over to the other Plains place quick. There we go. Oh, look at that sun. Yeah, here's one of the Plains places. Let me see if I can find it. One of the bad guy villages. Oh, there's one. Yeah, this one does have a shaman. This is a larger village, and there's like a totem here and stuff. Whoa. Yeah, these guys are pretty brutal. You can see them, they're buffing their teammates and stuff. But this promises to be really fun. And also, as you progress through the game and beat the other bosses in it, like, there's more enemies that will start, like, hitting your settlements in waves as you go through. And yes, you can apparently build on top of these things. These giant fucking stone outcroppings. There was one other biome I wanted to show, but it was like an unfinished biome that was just covered with spider webs and stuff. But anyway, that's it for the stream. I'm going to shut down the stream now, but I'm going to start up that castle video that I was talking about because it's really fucking interesting. So I'm going to switch over to that, and I'll shut down the Twitch stream. Thank you all for coming.